can only good happen.
For minors, do we love minors? I love minors.
Somebody said, is that a Trump statement or is that real? It's a new form of vicious violation to our country. God bless the United States.
The big, fat, sloppy United States.
Call them dumps, big, massive dumps.
You'll have a group of Venezuelan killers, street gangs, occupying the town with MK-47s. I know that gun very well. I got to know it very well. I've become an expert on guns.
Here he is. Yeah, he has become an expert on guns, ladies and gentlemen, which is why we should be happy that he's been in the military. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Blunt Politics. I'm Boston Brian. I really do appreciate you for joining me. We've got a great show for you today. So much to get into, so much to cover. Please contribute to the show if you're in the position to do so. Lots of ways you can do that. We got a Venmo up here in the corner. You can become a channel member just underneath me. You can sign up at the Patreon. That would be fantastic. All those ways to contribute, very much appreciated and very needed at this time. So please, again, think about contributing to, again, either the Venmo, the PayPal, the Patreon, or signing up in a membership. Or again, you can do the old super chat way with super stickers and super chats. What do you say we bring in the old Chatsky? How are you guys? Appreciate you. Let's make you a little bigger. What's up, guys? How are you? How's everything? Good to see you. Good to see you. What's going on, Wes? What's up, Greg? How are you, Elaine? What's up, Forever Young? Thank you to everybody on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Instagram. Please make sure you hit that like button on the way in as everybody filters in. What's going on, Denise? Hey, Andrea, how are you? Hey, everyone. Talking to the dog, the vet, non-emergency, but I'm listening. Oh, I hope everything's all right. Hope everything's all right. I know you say non-emergency, but you never know. Every word you say in the vet's office costs you about 10 grand. So be careful what you say. You know, you're like, oh shit, my dog, you know, he's been scratching this part of his neck. Okay, let's take him in for 45 fucking tests. That'll be 17 grand. Thank you very much. Nope, nothing wrong with him. All set. There was just something on his neck. So thank you guys. What's up, Alyosha? Appreciate you, my man. Thank you to everybody over there. What's up, Karen? Thank you guys. Appreciate you. But yeah, we got so much to get into, so much to talk about. Obviously, it being January 6th, talking about the 5th year anniversary of the attack on the Capitol. What's up, Tom? What's up, Victoria? What's up, guys? How are you? Appreciate you. Hi, Tina. All right. So yeah, what do you say we get into a little bit of the talking points that we'll be discussing today? Like I said, lots to get into, lots to talk about. It is the 5th anniversary of the January 6th Capitol riot. So obviously we'll be talking about that. Let me see if I can throw this on the stage for you. Just kind of flipping through some of the stories that we'll be talking about. So we'll be talking about that as well. Obviously we'll be discussing how the Department of Justice violated the Epstein Files law once again by failing to inform Congress of the reasons behind the redactions. That's what people have been talking about as well. We'll be talking about this story as it pertains to Hilton Hotels. Oh, let me throw this on the screen. My apologies. Because the Homeland Security Office is not very happy with Hilton Hotels. Apparently, Hilton Hotels is refusing to, basically take any reservations from DHS or immigration people, and it's good to fucking see. And I really do like it, and Homeland Security is not that happy about it. We also got a couple other videos to dive into, obviously heavily pertaining to what's going on in Venezuela, whether that's polling numbers on what the Americans think about it. Obviously, we'll be diving into some different, there's a couple Midas Touch videos because I believe not only was Walt at the UN Security Council meeting, which again, he was just blatantly telling everybody that the reasons we went in there, but also the right wingers that are reacting to this already, because I think, this one over here, Ben Midas Touch does have another video where they're talking about the MAGA podcasters abandoning Trump and attacking each other basically over this recent attack or, kidnapping in Venezuela. We got some articles to dive into. This is talking about how big oil doesn't seem to share Trump's dream of making Venezuela oil great. I know how you heard Donald Trump talk about how he advised the oil companies before he advised Congress, and they're all gung-ho and ready to go into Venezuela. Well, that doesn't seem to be the case. Right. I think Donald Trump needs to slow his roll. It doesn't really seem like the oil companies are as happy or as willing to hop down there the way that Donald Trump says they are. So we'll be getting into a couple different articles. And then this video here from Mr. Global, who worked in the I don't know what you want to say, the oil conglomerate. You know, he was part of this, you know, the oil industry, so has really good insights. And he'll be kind of discussing a couple reasons as to why these oil industries, these oil companies wouldn't really be quick to jump down to Venezuela, considering the investments that they have just recently put into places like Canada. So we'll be getting into this video as well. What else we got? I want to give you know, a shout out and some flowers to Hal as well, because I know Hal Sparks, a good friend of the show. Hal Sparks was somebody that was covering this a while ago, and this is talking about the Technate. This is talking about Elon Musk, his grandfather, Peter Thiel, right? So when we're talking about Greenland, when we're talking about you know, the rest of these territories that Donald Trump is seemingly coming after now, it fits right in line with what a lot of people were talking about quite some months ago. So you know, flowers where flowers are due on that one for the people that have been bringing that one up. But yeah, there's a couple instances on this one where you can kind of relate what's happening now to a lot of the plans that were kind of established in this, you know, Technocracy Inc. bullshit that I'm sure some of you are familiar with. If not, we'll get into it. We'll also be talking about how the Venezuela oil industry seems too shaky. This is just another one of those kind of talking about how these oil companies aren't as gung-ho about getting down to Venezuela as Donald Trump makes it out to be. So again, none of this really making sense. Obviously, James O'Brien's got a couple things to say about it, so we'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about this great fucking plan that Ukraine enacted in order to get $500,000 and you know, a substantial member of one of the opposition forces in Russia into their hands, into their custody. The whole fucking fake, the whole scheme is great to see, and it is, I don't know, it's something that they'll make movies about one day. So we'll be diving into that story as well. I know Donald Trump kind of had a few words to say, so I don't know if we want to dive into just a little bit of that bullshit to see what kind of nonsense was regurgitated out of his mouth. But I appreciate you guys joining me. I'm Boston Bryant. This is Blunt Politics. Make sure you hit that like button on the way in. What do you say we dive into, again, this first story that I wanted to talk about, which was obviously it being the 5th anniversary of January 6th, the attack on our Capitol. You know, I find it only fair and fit to kind of remind everybody about that moment, about the heroism that was shown on that day, about the danger that was posed that day, and who was behind that danger, who perpetrated that danger, and how they're right now, again, back in the White House. So this is just a quick CBS News mornings video, little clip talking to somebody. And again, they're showing the film and the footage in the B-roll behind them about what happened and took place on January 6th. So again, so just to kind of, you know, commiserate, whichever one you want to establish in this moment in time. Let's just kind of bring this up. I appreciate you guys. Hit that like button on the way in. Again, I'm Boston Bryant. This is Blunt Politics. Very much appreciate you being here. Please contribute to the show if you're in the position to do so. Let's roll.
Now, today marks 5 years since the January 6th insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. In less than an hour from now, Democrats will hold a hearing on that riot. Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries said it will examine...
I actually believe if you go to Reuters, I think there's like a Reuters live stream of the January 6th committee. Yeah, let me see here. Yeah, let me throw this. So if you go to Reuters, this is different. This says Proud Boys March on Capitol on January 6th. So I believe they're just doing kind of like a continuous live stream of things pertaining to January 6th on Reuters in case anybody was, you know, wanting to, you know, relive it. I don't know why you would, but, you know, anybody that was interested in that. There are different websites and different sites on these platforms kind of going over the, you know, the commission, going over the testimonies, going over the video footage. So you can find that anywhere you want.
Unquote, ongoing threats to free and fair elections. The riots led to the largest criminal prosecution in American history. But as you may remember, President Trump...
Crazy, though. 5 years, though, right? Does it seem like 5 years? Doesn't seem like 5 years ago. It might even seem like for some people longer than 5 years. It's crazy how time works and how time is different for different people and how it relates differently for different people. But it just doesn't seem like it was all that long ago, though, you know, when looking back on it, seeing the footage of it. I mean, the shit that we've lived through just in my lifetime is fucking crazy.
Pardoned every single defendant on his first day in office. CBS News election law expert and political contributor David Becker joins me now to discuss this. David, good morning to you. What's your overall view of all this? What impact did the riot and the pardons have on the idea in America of free and fair elections?
Yeah, I think it's really important on this day in particular and every day to remember where we were on that moment on January 6th, 5 years ago, and what we saw with our own eyes. The president called people to DC. He aimed a violent mob at the Capitol, and then hundreds of people attacked the Capitol, destroyed property, threatened members of Congress, and attempted to stop the peaceful transfer of power. We all saw it with our own eyes, and yet there is an attempt to rewrite history, to recast that violent mob, over 1,000 of whom were convicted of crimes, although subsequently pardoned, as you noted, Errol. To recast those people as the heroes in this story, even though we know that's not what happened. And to recast...
No, and he's talking about the obvious trying to rewrite history on this occasion, right? Donald Trump's still talking about, I think he brought it up today, if I'm not mistaken, in his little speech that he gave, the 2020 election, how it was stolen from him, this, that, and the other thing, right? I mean, he continues to spew this propaganda. He continues to try to rewrite history. So that it's more beneficial to him. And the same thing with the January 6th pardons. Right now, they're being looked at as heroes and patriots, and they're trying to be, lifted up and applauded and fucking and put on stages, and they're being, thrown around the right-wing fucking podcast atmosphere as heroes and shit like that. So clearly trying to rewrite history. And just don't forget the shit that you're now seeing on your screen and what you were seeing live that day, as we all saw it take place live, and the emotions and the feelings that you had. Like, just never let that go. Don't let the pardons get in the way. Don't let the rewriting of history get in the way. You know what you saw. We know what happened, right? We witnessed it live on fucking television through multiple angles. For hours and hours and hours of coverage, right? The president doing absolutely nothing for hours. His meager, ridiculous statement that he did come out with when he finally hopped in front of cameras. The stories that we heard behind the scenes in the January 6th testimony about, what he was doing, sitting in that fucking room, how he was kind of applauding the actions, how he didn't want it to stop. I mean, don't forget all of the stuff that we know, even though they're trying to, again, fucking Men in Black you and rewrite history at the same time.
The members of the Capitol Police Force who bravely tried to protect members of Congress in the Capitol building, to recast members of Congress who worked through the night to complete their duty to ensure the peaceful transfer of power, and to recast the thousands of election officials, the public servants whose work has withstood scrutiny for 5 years now, and who correctly determined what the outcome of that election was, and to recast them all as villains in this story. That's just not what happened. And the memory of that day and where we were, all of us as Americans, and how across the political spectrum, we were horrified by what we witnessed on that day.
It's remarkable because as you speak, we're looking at footage from that day, and it gives me chills as you lay out the sacrifice that police officers made. Some of them died as a result, taking their own lives.
And, today would be a great day to hop over to, places and people like the channel of Michael Fanone. Hop over there, subscribe to his channel, show him some support, show him some love, give him some gratitude for, what he's, went through that day, what he suffered through that day, and what he's been fighting for ever since. Harry Dunn, there's what's the other one's name? Aquila, excuse me if I'm getting the names wrong, but there's a few of them that are still out there raising hell, still using their voices and still trying to, raise awareness for justice and stuff like that. So today would be a great day, again, if you're not subscribed to these people, to head over, find their channels, subscribe to them either on Substack, wherever they might be, and to kind of show them some love and support, again, on the 5th anniversary of this. But, a lot to cover, a lot to get through today, but I just wanted to reiterate and make sure that we're not forgetting the heroism and the plight of the people that lived through it that day, what we saw on again live television with our own eyes, the stuff that we heard with our own ears, and the chants and hang Mike Pence and hang Nancy Pelosi and all the rest of it, and the gallows with the noose. That shit just doesn't happen. Right? You don't just snap your fingers and a noose and a gallows is built outside of the Capitol building. You don't just snap your fingers and all of a sudden get thousands of people to congregate with bear spray and weapons and batons and fucking riot gear and storm and march the Capitol and break the windows and, again, threaten to kill our elected officials. Like that it doesn't happen on a whim. There was definitely actions and things perpetrated behind the scenes by powerful people that we learned about. And again, the January 6th Commission, the testimonies from everybody that was in that. And again, that's something you can find that's probably running on a lot of channels today. If you need to refresh your memory, if you need to kind of, like I said, refresh your memory on what did take place and who was behind it. So again, another story that people are talking about that kind of slipped through the cracks because of obviously the ongoing Venezuela talk, the actions by the Trump administration, and the rhetoric sensed by people like Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, and beyond. But this was put out by Midas Touch, and this is, I believe, by Aaron Parnas, talking about how the Justice Department violated the Epstein Files law once again by failing to inform Congress of reasons behind the redactions. The Justice Department has now blown through another deadline, it says. Let me see if I can make this a little bigger on the screen, just in case you guys are willing to read along. How's that? A little better. Source familiar with the release of the Epstein Files confirms that the United States Congress has yet to receive a required explanation from the United States Department of Justice regarding redactions made to the Epstein File productions. The omission represents yet another apparent violation of the Epstein Files Transparency Act, a statute enacted to ensure public accountability, congressional oversight, and transparency surrounding one of the most consequential criminal investigations in recent history. Under the law, the Justice Department was required to formally explain and justify any redactions it made related to the Epstein Files. That deadline was January 3rd, a statutory date clearly outlined, prescribed in the act. As of now, no such explanation has been delivered to Congress. The failure to meet a clear legal requirement, particularly one designed to prevent secrecy, raises serious questions about compliance, intent, and accountability within the Justice Department. The lapse does not exist in isolation. It comes amid broader concerns about executive overreach and what critics describe as unconstitutional actions by the president. Regardless of those developments, the law remains the law, and compliance is not optional. Congressional oversight does not expire with inconvenience, nor does transparency depend on political timing. The Epstein Files Transparency Act was passed precisely to prevent delay, obfuscation, and the quiet noncompliance. Those tracking the issue are making it clear this will not be forgotten. The statutory deadline has passed. The explanation is overdue, and pressure will continue until Congress and the public receive the answers law demands. And again, that by Midas Touch and Aaron Parnas more specifically. But again, this is something that kind of fell through the cracks. This is something that, people didn't really see, probably didn't see the find, the small writing in the Transparency Act, but is very important to bring up. They're very important. That goes along the lines of this Justice Department, of this entire regime, this administration not doing the right thing, being the first people to be there to not only hide and obfuscate and redact, but also break the law that Donald Trump signed himself. Right. Not only was it the first law, not only did they first break it by not releasing the entirety of the files the day that it was supposed to be. I believe it was the 19th of December was that first date. Now here on the 3rd of January, they were supposed to have the explanation on why they redacted everything. We know that there was certain stipulations within the Transparency Act that gave Pam Bondi and the DOJ the ability to redact certain information. Just kind of paraphrasing, I believe it was like if it was related to an ongoing investigation, if it was obviously something that would give an information or release the identity of a victim. I know there were certain other stipulations in there, but they were not allowed to overstep those boundaries and redact more information than that was allowed in the Transparency Act. Not only that, but they were required by the 3rd of January to tell Congress why they redacted the shit that they did redact. Right? Okay, this was redacted because it gave a victim's whereabouts, or it gave a victim's phone number, or this was redacted because this is related to an ongoing investigation. Like that is supposed to be information turned in by a certain date to Congress to, again, prove that the Justice Department complied with the Epstein Files Transparency Act and didn't redact stuff that they weren't supposed to have redacted. And again, another deadline missed, another bit of obfuscation, another bit of trying to hide and defend Donald Trump and these fucking monsters that are associated with this file. But again, I wasn't going to let this slip through the cracks. Like I said, the Venezuela thing has just kind of totally taken over on all regards. And, it will be heavily talked about on the show today. But again, I find it very important to maintain, the news, maintain this, the highlighting of what's going on with the Epstein Files, the laws that are being broken, how the DOJ is not following the law that, again, Donald Trump himself signed into law. So this is what's going on here. This is just the latest example of how they're trying to hide shit from you. And again, not being totally transparent like they'd have you believe. So again, moving on. Here's another story that's pretty cool. Sorry, excuse me, not another story. That's pretty cool because that last story wasn't. But this is good to hear that other companies are stepping up. Let me reword that. My apologies. It's good to see that companies are stepping up against people like DHS, against people like ICE, against people like Homeland Security, right? And the actions that they're taking in different cities throughout the country right now. So this is just one of the latest examples that we saw. This was put out by the Homeland Security page on Twitter. And you can read, as it says here at the top, no room at the inn, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is a biblical reference. Correct me in the chat if I'm wrong. Let me know on that one. I'm sure there's probably people that are more up to speed on their religiosity than I am. But isn't no room at the inn a biblical reference? I'm going to wait just a second to see if anybody answers. Just give me a second. Thank you, Deb. I appreciate that. I really do. Thank you so much. Soulcraft says, and a Zeppelin lyric. But I do believe it's in some way, shape, or form a biblical reference. But it goes on to say, at Hilton Hotels has launched a coordinated campaign in Minneapolis to refuse service to DHS law enforcement. Good work. Good work, Hilton. Good work. I love it. When officers attempted to book rooms using official government emails and rates, Hilton Hotels maliciously canceled their reservations. I fucking love it. This is unacceptable. Why is Hilton Hotels siding with murderers, rapists who deliberately undermine and impede DHS law enforcement from their mission to enforce our nation's immigration laws? And I believe this was put out by Hilton. After further investigation online, we have found information about immigration work connected with your name, and we will be canceling your upcoming reservation. You should see a proper cancellation email in your inbox shortly. And I believe it goes on to say, this email is in regards to the reservation you made with the Hampton Inn Lakeville property. We have noticed an influx of GOV reservations made today that have been made for DHS, and we are not allowing any ICE or immigration agents to stay at our property. Let's go. If you are with DHS or immigration, let us know, and we will have to cancel your reservation as well. Please pass on this info to your coworkers that we are not allowing any immigration agents to house on our property. Reply at your earliest convenience. I fucking love it. It looks like it's from the front of the house manager at Hampton. But just, I mean, great. Excuse me, Hilton. My apologies, Hilton. But I mean, good to see that people in companies are still, and I don't know, I do believe that there actually was, what's that guy's name? Nick Sorter. Let me see if I can find this, because this is kind of related to that as well. I do believe Nick Sorter tried to do his own like Nick Shirley propaganda piece here, because I think he actually went to, yeah, here it is right here. Here it is right here. He actually went to the Hilton, like trying to do his own like Nick Shirley hit piece, right? Like, so this is exactly what Nick Shirley has created. It's just these random idiots just showing up to different random fucking businesses, trying to, again, get clicks and just fucking the spotlight on Twitter. So he goes in there and tries to ask the person randomly working at the desk about the decisions made by the company itself. Like that person working at the front desk is supposed to have knowledge or like be able to answer for what the corporation itself is doing. Like ridiculous in and of its right. But he goes in there, I'm not going to show it, but he goes in there and tries to say like, oh, fucking, he says something about Bud Light. Oh, Hilton, yeah, here he is. Hilton Hotels has decided they want the full Bud Light treatment. Again, talking about the what was her name, Mullen Delvaney, the beer ad that they had on the can, and how they all talked about fucking boycotting Bud Light, even though they all still drink it to this point, and that Bud Light really never actually saw any real issues as it pertains to like Anheuser-Busch, really. But yeah, so basically that's what he did. He tried to do this Nick Shirley-esque video. And he showed up to fucking Hilton, and he went in there and asked the guy literally working at the front desk, like, why won't you let D? It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm working the front desk for fucking $7.25 an hour. You think I put that email out? Like, what are you, soft? Right? And again, I won't even play you the audio, but you can see what he's attempting to do. He goes in, fucking rings the bell. Some random kid comes over. He probably questions him as to what the email, like this poor kid, right? This guy had no idea what's going on. Probably isn't even fucking privy to the email. No clue, right? Or even maybe he is, but it's definitely not under his fucking, it's definitely not under his direction. But again, this is just one aspect that the right wing is trying to now utilize, this like Nick Shirley type of reporting or journalism, as they're trying to call it, to expose more people. But I love to see that Hilton was stepping up. I love to see that they're unapologetic in not only their beliefs, but also the email that they put out being like, hey, fucking, we ain't doing this. You ain't going to sit here and use our house, our property as a place to just come back to every night as you go out every single day and rip people out of their homes and out of fucking work and out of jobs and out of church and out of fucking, hospitals to send them to some fucking random prison camp. Right. So it ain't happening. So good to see that other companies are stepping up. Hopefully more people do the same thing. Again, I'm not saying that there haven't been, but this is probably the most prominent one that I've seen kind of reported, considering that the government had to come out on Twitter and actually kind of respond to it. The Homeland Security page here, as you can see, but that was pretty cool. But this one, let's see if we can hop into this one, because this is getting now into more of the Venezuela talk. And this was pretty spot on, I must say. And we're just going to kick this off on kind of a lighter note, because obviously the shit that we have to get into is just not light to talk about. But this was a pretty good representation of the hypocrisy of the undertaking of the kidnapping of Nicolas Maduro and his wife. This was a random TikTok that I found by, credit where credit is due, Jamie Kaler. But check this out. Listen to this and tell me if this isn't just kind of spot on what happened. Listen to this.
Operation, I had some friends of mine execute a raid on my neighbor Tom's house. He put up quite a fight, but we got through and he's in custody. I haven't liked what he's been doing over there for a while now, so I've decided to run his house myself. He leaves his Christmas lights up too long. He never trims his avocado tree that hangs over my fence. And I believe he's running.
So in case you don't follow thus far, he's basically saying that he perpetrated a takeover of his neighbor's house, talking about trying to put that in line in comparison with the takeover of Venezuela and the kidnapping of Maduro. So he says he doesn't like how his Christmas lights were hung. He keeps them up too long. He's now, going to take over and run his household for a little bit. But this is just, again, a perfect representation of how to use comedy and kind of, get a point across in what happened with what took place in Venezuela.
Up there. I can't prove the last one, but it makes sense. I've seen him speak Spanish. I got rid of the wife as well. I didn't really have a problem with her, but we did do a 4th of July block party, and she brought empanadas. So better safe than sorry. I've got them at a Residence Inn a couple towns over. I've been using his home as my own little man cave. Pretty great. It turns out he has a fantastic wine cellar that I have tapped into extensively.
Now, that wine cellar, obviously representative of the oil industry, of the oil reserves that Venezuela has, right?
Anyway, I'll be running his home until a time when I can have a safe, proper, and judicious turnover to some other guy.
Obviously, in relation to what Donald Trump said about the takeover of Venezuela. So you can tell how this is in one-to-one relation, and he's using, obviously, he's being facetious. He's using comedy to get this point across and how crazy this whole action is.
Which probably won't be happening soon. And just a heads up, I plan to take over some other neighbors' homes as well. Phil, across the street, has a pretty cool car I'd like to be in charge of. And Alex, who lives catty corner from me, has a wife who's a yoga instructor. Be taking that one soon. Again, doing it for the good of the neighborhood, so stay tuned. In a stunning late night operation, I had some friends of mine execute a raid on my neighbor Tom's house.
I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was very well done. I thought it was spot on. I mean, again, it just clearly shows the hypocrisy and the insanity of the mission that was undertaken, right? And again, if people, and this is, again, consider him a foreign fucking entity. Consider him just a bad actor, right? A world leader right now that we are not allied with, we're enemies with, and consider how they can take this action by the United States and say the same thing. Hey, okay, well, now, like Russia is saying, like China is saying, well, you absolutely have no more footing to tell us we can't do A, B, and C if you guys are going to be conducting missions like that, again, against international law, without fucking a declaration of war, even though it's an act of war, kidnapping of a sovereign territory's leader, and then what, the blatant takeover of that sovereign nation, that sovereign territory, because you didn't like what they were doing. So again, you have no moral justification. You have no more fucking high ground now to tell us what to do. And this is, again, what Russia and people like China are saying. But again, you can see how this could be used on the world stage by bad actors to justify any and all actions that they want to undertake. If any nation has the military capabilities to go into their neighbor's region and fucking just conduct a coup, conduct a takeover, why shouldn't they now? Why wouldn't they now? Right? So you can see how this precedent has been set. And again, who follows that precedent, what happens now in the future remains to be seen, but it's a clear precedent that everybody's talking about and has clearly been, again, set by the United States. And again, just brings us down so many rungs on the world stage on, again, having this high ground to talk about what Russia is doing in Ukraine, talk about what Israel is doing in Gaza. I mean, you name it. And again, this just makes us look completely fucking useless on the world stage. And we'll be looking at that too, because Waltz was in. Let's see if we can dive into this. Because Waltz was in with the UN Security Council, and they were just not having it. So first, I want to take a look at this poll. We'll take a look at this poll real quick, just to show you, again, what the Americans are feeling on this. This was in one of the Secular Talk videos with Kyle. And this is Americans oppose Trump's actions against Venezuela, how Americans feel about the various military actions in and around Venezuela by poll question. This was a Quinnipiac University Data for Progress poll. And again, you can see here at the very bottom, invasion of Venezuela, 16%, 62% oppose. Boat strikes, 53% oppose. Military action in Venezuela, 63% oppose. Send troops to remove Maduro, 60% oppose. Military force to overthrow Maduro, 53% oppose. Invasion of Venezuela, 62% oppose. So you can clearly see where the American people lie on this one. But again, in relation to Mike, to Waltz here in his meeting in the UN Security Council here and his statements. This was a Midas Touch video, and Ben kind of dived into a little bit of the highlights or lowlights, we should say, into that meeting. So what do you say we dive into this? I don't know if we necessarily. I'll just kind of do the highlights. I'll let him start, and then we'll go into the highlights. But I appreciate you guys. Hit that like button.
As an emergency United Nations Security Council meeting has been called into session. Donald Trump is making post after post while this United Nations Security Council meeting is taking place. Trump is posting about the 2020 election, and he continues to spread 2020 election lies, saying that the election was stolen.
And he looked terrible too. He looked absolutely awful. I mean, just to not to make you throw up, and fair warning, careful. Trump site coming, unsightly Trump footage coming. But he just looks absolutely terrible. I mean, just listen to him just for 2 seconds. We'll go back to the Midas Touch, but listen to how terrible he sounds. He looks, I mean, he's just rambling and bumbling and stumbling and sweating. Look at this guy.
Don't vote by mail. They vote on paper ballots.
And he's talking about mail-in voting. Jesus Christ.
They tried voting by mail, and there was fraud all over the country. We're the only country that votes by mail, essentially. You know that, right? Speaker, that's another thing. We're the only country that's stupid enough to vote by mail. Even Jimmy.
Jesus Christ. So again, just to show you how deranged and off the fucking chain he looked today, that was just a little piece of that. Jesus Christ. Jesus H. All right, let's get into this again.
From him at the same time the Security Council meeting is taking place, where we're hearing from Michael Waltz, Donald Trump's ambassador to the United Nations, who's saying that the Western Hemisphere should be controlled by the United States, and the reason that we invaded Venezuela was to take their resources, and we are going to assert the same type.
Like, remember what we were saying on yesterday's show? Remember how this used to be like stuff said in cigar-filled fucking whiskey drinking back rooms of the fucking richest 1% of the people that owned, the defense industries, the people that owned the industries that were going to go in there and take over. Like, this was stuff that wasn't really ever said like it's being said right now by this administration so blatantly, without fucking, like, they just have no shame whatsoever. And it's crazy to hear. It's fucking crazy to hear that just because we don't like, again, what somebody in our hemisphere was doing, that we feel we have the right to go into a sovereign territory and not only take it over, but remove their leader, whether legitimate or illegitimate, right? And then control that fucking nation. It's the same thing that Lindsey Graham's saying when he was like literally fucking jizzing in the pants on Air Force One next to Donald Trump. He's been talking about Iran and Cuba and Greenland being next. Right. And again, now it's being said at the UN Security Council by Mike Waltz pretty blatantly, like we can't allow anybody in our hemisphere to do things that we don't like, is basically the extent of the argument that they're making.
Of right across the Western Hemisphere. There's no mention of the UN Charter. There's no mention of sovereignty. This is just utter imperialistic, raw. You hear it for yourself. Listen to what Michael Waltz has to say here. Play this clip.
As Secretary Rubio stated just yesterday, this is the Western Hemisphere. This is where we live. And we're not going to allow the Western Hemisphere to be used as a base of operation for our nation's adversaries and competitors and rivals of the United States.
And you know what's funny about that is, like, it's not like the United States didn't have access or the opportunity to get the Venezuelan fucking oil, right? We passed up on that. So again, to say that we passed up on it and we don't like who the Venezuelans actually did business with, and that we're going to take over the country and we're going to install new leaders because of it. Again, a sovereign nation, and just because we don't like what they did or the decisions that they make or how it's being run or anything like that, that's what he's saying at the UN Security Council. Even though we talked about the UN fucking charter and what an act of war is, we talked about international law, we talked about fucking how he's again skirted Congress to get through this. I mean, it's all of this shit, and he's just blatantly saying this in the UN Security Council like it's nothing. Like it doesn't matter. Like we're just supposed to accept this as, oh, okay, we just didn't like what that makes it all right that we killed what was the number now? I reported 40 per that New York Times article. But again, I think Cuba even came out and said 32 of their citizens were killed. So again, it's pretty hard for me to see that only 40 people were killed when 32 of them were allegedly supposed to be Cuban citizens. Again, obviously that death toll is going to be higher than that if that is an accurate statement, an accurate number. So I haven't seen the most recent toll, but again, I know Steph is saying it was 80 yesterday. That seems a little bit more, even higher than that, I would assume. But yeah, that seems a little bit more realistic considering the further reporting that we heard. I appreciate that, Steph. Thank you so much. All right, yeah, so let's dive into this more of this bullshit. And again, this is Mike Waltz, the U.S. ambassador to the UN at the UN Security Council, talking about blatantly, we just didn't like what Venezuela was doing, so that's why we did it.
Can't turn Venezuela into the operating hub for Iran, for Hezbollah.
So Frida says claiming around 120 now. I mean, like I said, even that sounds more along the lines of what you would expect, considering the footage that we saw coming out. But even that, I think, would probably be on the low end. So again, with time is probably going to come a more accurate number as far as that reporting is concerned. But yes, I wouldn't deny that it's even above that as well, too, Frida.
Gangs, for Cuban intelligence agents and other malign actors that control that country. You cannot continue to have the largest energy reserves in the world under the control of adversaries of the United States, under the control of illegitimate leaders, and not benefiting the people of Venezuela, and stolen by a handful of oligarchs inside of Venezuela.
The hypocrisy of talking about a handful of oligarchs, right? As Donald Trump talked about, and whether true or untrue, it was still a statement by Donald Trump. He wanted people to believe that he alerted the fucking oil conglomerates, the oil companies, about what was going on, about the attack, about the strike, long before anybody in Congress knew anything about it. Right? We talk about the oil companies and how they were investing into Donald Trump's campaign. What were the promises being made even back then? Was this something they knew was going to take place back then? We brought up yesterday Donald Trump talking about, hey, if I stayed in power, we would have just taken over Venezuela. We would have taken all the oil. They would have collapsed. So was this even thought about even as far back as that moment in time? And this is something that, again, the oil conglomerates, the oil companies were well aware of well before Congress knew anything about it. And again, we'll look at some further reporting coming here, talking about how the oil companies and these oil conglomerates aren't as on the same page with Donald Trump as Donald Trump would have you believe they are. So again, there's a few more clips here from Mike Waltz. Let's dive into them.
But it does.
Then the ambassador to the United Nations from the United States, Michael Waltz, said there was actually no war against Venezuela. He said it was just a law enforcement operation. Why is everybody calling this a war? Here, play this clip.
Colleagues, the United States successfully carried out a surgical law enforcement operation facilitated by the U.S. military against two indicted fugitives of American justice, narco-terrorist Nicolas Maduro and Celia Flores.
And again, the ridiculousness, the hypocrisy of the U.S. ambassador to the UN not recognizing what an act of war is per the UN charter, right? Is just the blatant fucking ignorance of this administration, or again, the willful ignorance of this administration to just not care about it and to just do anything that they anything they deem fit because Donald Trump is fucking instructing all of it.
Colleagues, Nicolas Maduro is responsible for attacks on the people of the United States, for destabilizing the Western Hemisphere.
He's responsible for attacks on the people of the United States. So you see how they're trying to make this like a national security issue, right? All the buzzwords that we heard about Iraq and Afghanistan, all the buzzwords about the South and Central American incursions. It's a existential threat to our national security. They got weapons of mass destruction. It's about the drugs and the fentanyl, even though it's pretty funny that I don't believe fentanyl is mentioned once in the indictment of Nicolas Maduro. And again, it's very fucking likely, or at least likely to some extent, that whole investigation, that whole indictment falls apart in the court of law in the United States, because we know how tricky that is. We know how, again, any little fucking minor thing we've seen in the past of people that have committed crimes in broad daylight right in front of us, but they've gotten off on some, minor stipulation, or some police officer didn't do this right, or this law wasn't followed, or this regulation wasn't followed, and they get off on it, right? So, I mean, again, I wouldn't put it past the incompetency of this administration to lose the fucking battle they have right now in court against Nicolas Maduro. And then where does that fucking leave us? Where does that leave Maduro? What happens then? I'm not sure they give a shit. But again, how fucking ridiculous would that be? So, I'll let him go on. There's a couple more clips, but it's ridiculous to think that this is like some police act facilitated by the U.S. military, as we're seeing fucking rockets and explosions in Caracas, right? Doesn't look like any police action that I've seen. Looks like more of a military action that may have had, if you want us to believe, some FBI agents on board. And a lot of this doesn't add up as well as far as the attack itself, if I do may, like, something isn't adding up, right? And I'm not quite sure what it is. I don't know if this is like direct involvement between the current acting president, or the former vice president in with the United States that made this happen. But to have the very capable Russian air defenses that we know that they have, not only that, but I believe also Iranian air defenses in this area, and then to see the low and slow lumbering Chinook helicopters just flying straight into Caracas in a straight line, not worried about anything. Reportedly, no shots fired from these, from the air defenses. There was small arm fire taken from different areas, from different people, but to the vast extent of whether or not the military responded to this, it doesn't look like they responded at all. It looks like they were either told to stand down. It looks like, maybe the CIA, because we heard Donald Trump sanctioned CIA actions in Venezuela. Were they able to get to Maduro's generals? Were they able to get to, the military and say, hey, it's to your benefit not to shoot back or to stand down? This is when it's going to happen. Have your men pulled back, have the machinery pulled back, whatever it is. Right. It seems like the United States knew, because we talk about the swiftness of the mission. Right. We talk about how like awesome and overwhelming it was. But if you look at it, like, what is that reason? Was it is there now some like game being played between the acting president, and she's just kind of coming out against the United States and Donald Trump because that's the game that she has to play? But in reality, she made a deal behind the scenes to have Maduro picked up, so that she could be installed as leader, so she could profit more from whatever's going to happen, right? There's been reports that she was supposedly either in Russia or having something to do with Russia. Again, I haven't seen any confirmation on that, so I won't report it as confirmed, but it has been reported. I have seen reporting that she may have been in Russia at the time. Again, if that's been confirmed or denied, please let me know in the chat, because, again, I want to make sure I'm as up-to-date and accurate with the reporting as possible. But it was something that I saw. And, again, just this bluster of, we condemn what the United States did and what Donald Trump did. That could be the game. That could be like, okay, we're going to do this behind the scenes. But, again, you'll have to come out on camera and condemn what we did just to kind of keep up appearances, right? Was there something else? I mean, we heard, what's her name? Maria Machado wants to come in and now be installed, but Donald Trump had already said that she doesn't have the support, right? But there's a lot of fishiness. There's a lot of things that really don't make sense, that don't really add up in this instance. And again, I think we're going to have to kind of wait and see as to what happens and kind of pinpoint the answers, kind of going back in time. Because, again, it seemed really strange that, again, the techniques, the tactics of the United States military looked as though they knew there was going to be no substantial retaliation. It looked like they knew that they could fly the low, slow, lumbering fucking Chinook helicopters carrying the most valuable troops that we have in our arsenal in the United States military, in the Delta Force team, right? That's the most valuable fucking asset that we have. And to see them flying just low and slow straight into the city of Caracas like that kind of led to some questions to a lot of people. Right. And again, the fully capable, they might not be the best, they might not be the most fucking up to date and accurate and advanced, but they're definitely capable Russian and Iranian air defenses that seemingly, I mean, somebody said it took a few days to knock out the Iranian air defenses in in the strike in Iran. This was done in about 20 to 30 minutes potentially. And again, that I'm not saying to take anything away from the United States military and anything like that. They are brave soldiers. And again, that's nothing to take away from them. But it raised a lot of questions as to why these very capable air defenses that, again, were already in pre-alert status, that knew the United States Navy was off the coast, that had heard the rhetoric coming from the United States, and you'd think they'd be on high alert, on active fucking alert, you know? You'd think they would, at least some of them would be up there shooting back. And again, the United States did receive some small arms fire in return. Some helicopters were hit. Some soldiers were injured. No deaths reported, but there was some injuries reported. But that, again, is very minute in consideration with the radar, with the fucking, again, with the anti-aircraft systems that they have up there. It's just a lot of questions remain as to what was going on behind the scenes and how this really took place and how this was really set up to happen the way it did. All right, let me throw this back on the screen. Excuse me. I just wanted to bring that up. That was just something that I was thinking about, something a lot of people were thinking about, was brought to my attention as well. So I appreciate it.
Here and illegitimately repressing the people of Venezuela. As Secretary Rubio has said, there is no war against Venezuela or its people.
Just an act of war. Just an act of war that we, again, didn't go through Congress to enact. Just an act of war of kidnapping. Just, again, several, probably 100 to 200 people killed, both military and civilians, but not a war. Just a police. It was a police action, they want you to believe.
We are not occupying a country. This was a law enforcement operation in furtherance of lawful.
Sorry. So Yakov says the vice president that is now the president because she was sworn in today was in with the Iranians, Russians, and China. She's known to support Russia and China and Iran more than Maduro. And again, the only other option is it's like, well, then she's just as pro Maduro as Maduro was, right? So we've just gone from basically one Maduro representative to another is like I guess the other option. On the other hand, if she didn't have something to do with it, then like how is it any different having this lady that was, fully backing Maduro for so long, again, in charge of the oil industry. I believe she was the energy minister, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So obviously somebody really fucking rich and powerful and has, the ability to sway policy and control and what the oil conglomerates do and the profits of that oil and shit. So again, on one hand, it's either that we took out Maduro just to have his kind of right-hand woman installed in there, and she's actually pissed off about what happened, or she set this up in the background just so she could profit from it, be installed as leader, and she's just kind of doing this, like, keeping up appearances to make it look like she didn't have anything to do with it in, like, her condemning of the United States. And again, with Maria Machado, I think Donald Trump, if I'm not mistaken, has already come out a few times and said that she doesn't have the support. She's, that's not even a thing, even though she's come out and said she wants to return to Venezuela to be installed. So again, it's a mess. As we continue to talk about the mission undertaken to remove Maduro was seemingly the easy part. You could plan that to a T. We have the fucking forces and the troops and the capabilities to do it. But what happens next and what the plan is for the long-term future and sustainability of this country and whether or not the best interest of the Venezuelans is at heart here for the people, again, going in to rule now is definitely a big fucking question. And there's a lot of red flags that we need to point out in that instance.
Indictments that have existed for decades. The United States arrested a narco trafficker who is now going to stand trial in the United States.
I'm sorry. Is he going to get a pardon like the president of Honduras, who was responsible for, again, almost identical things that you claim to be? And again, another question, is it okay now for anybody from another country to come into the United States to arrest leaders? Right. So I don't know. Should somebody come in and arrest Donald Trump for the crimes that he's committed, say? You know what I mean? If somebody feels it capable, they have the capabilities to do so. It's okay now. They just put it out. We're just going to control. Foreign policy is now done by arrest warrants. Because why hasn't Vladimir Putin been scooped up? Why hasn't Benjamin Netanyahu been scooped up yet, if that's the case? I got questions.
accordance with the rule of law for the crimes he's committed against our people for 15 years. A similar action was taken in 1989 against Manuel Noriega.
Then the United States was getting condemned by everybody from China to Russia to Denmark. And here's the thing. You lose any moral high ground. You lose the right to assert the rights of other nations when you engage in these behavior that the United States has engaged in here. So this gave Russia the opportunity and China the opportunity on a world stage to condemn the United States for attacking the world.
And that was literally one of my first responses. I won't pull it up. I won't be as vain as to pull it up. But if you go to my Blue Sky, one of the first things that I said was, okay, how do we have the moral clarity? How do we have the moral standing? How do we have the moral position now to tell Russia not to continue to perpetrate its war in Ukraine, not to tell Israel to perpetrate its war against the Palestinian people? Like where do we now fit into that category? And again, I know that is how it was going to be used by these nations, right? I know that how the propaganda works for these nations and how they were going to hop on this again to give themselves more credibility, to lead, to lend themselves, more assurance that they can continue to do what they need to do to fulfill their goals, whether it be in Ukraine or whether that be against the Palestinian people, right? So this is the first thing that almost one of the first things that I thought it was, okay, now we just fucking blew that. Putin's going to use this. Lavrov's going to use this to the fucking fullest extent. Xi Jinping came out and the Chinese representatives came out with a statement again talking about Taiwan. How could we have moral high ground? How can we expect Xi Jinping now to listen to anything that the United States has to say in regards to the security and safety of Taiwan? And that's, not to say that any like immediate action is coming, but you can see how it's being used and justified by these nations, by these states, by these nations already. And it's only right that we kind of try to look forward to see what can come from this, what negativity is going to come from this and how it could be used by bad actors all over the fucking planet to enact their fucking bad acts, right? It's crazy. And again, just for the sake of time, I'm going to dive ahead because I think there's a couple more clips here of people condemning us as well.
Play this clip.
On January the 3rd, the United States blatantly launched large-scale military strikes against Venezuela, forcibly seized Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife. And
again, to have to suffer, to have to endure through the hypocrisy of fucking representatives of China, of representatives from fucking Russia, sit there and scold us on fucking moral clarity and the high ground and shit is just, it's so frustrating. But that's the position that we've been led down. That's the road that we've been led down by this administration. That's how fucking incompetent and inept they are. They are now afforded Russia and China the ability to have moral high ground over the United States at the fucking UN Security Council to condemn us, and they're not wrong for fucking doing so. Right? It's hypocritical. They're enacting and doing things 10 times worse on their own fucking right. But for what they're saying, the shit that they're saying, particularly and specifically pertaining to what the United States did, they're not fucking wrong.
Out of the country. It claimed that it will run Venezuela and even didn't rule out launching a second round of military operations on an even larger scale. China is deeply shocked by and strongly condemns the unilateral illegal.
How can Mike Waltz call this a police action when, again, to the best of my knowledge, not a single military fucking member has been fucking pulled back from this, Like, if this was a police act just supported by 25% of our fucking Navy, and that police act is done, that police action is done, which would have been, as they like to have you, believe, the kidnapping of Nicolas Maduro, then why the fuck is our Navy still in the Caribbean? Why do we still have assets in the area, right? Why is Donald Trump talking about boots on the ground and a possible second strike, right? In a possible fucking legitimate takeover of this fucking country? Can anybody answer me that? If it's a police action and that police action is done, do the police normally stick around the building that they go arrest a guy for the next fucking, 3-4 months? Is that something they typically do? If they come, pick you up at your house for a warrant or something, are they gonna occupy your house for the next 3 months? I don't think how that works, right? That's really not how that works. If you're arrested for, for fucking some act whatsoever, and they take you to the courthouse, they take you to jail, do the cops go live at your house until the fucking court case is done? Like, is that how that works? Because I don't see that being how that works.
And bullying acts of the U.S. For some
That's
time,
China, and then I believe Russia. Let me go on here again, just for the sake of time. I think Russia has a statement as well, if I'm not mistaken, or is this China again?
and indeed, internationally, China firmly opposes this, and the international community has also expressed widespread grave concern and strong condemnation.
Let me see who this one was, because there was a couple other clips here too from other nations as well. Here's one from the Danish ambassador to the UN.
That forbids states from threatening or using force against another state's territorial integrity and political independence. This imperative is enshrined in Article 2, Paragraph 4 of the UN Charter. Members...
Man, and again, if you're a fan of Blunt Politics, if you've been watching Blunt Politics, then you know exactly what she's talking about, because we brought up that exact specific fucking article yesterday on the show. Section 2, Article 4.
Of the UN Security Council have a special responsibility to uphold these principles. The principles of sovereignty, political independence, and territorial integrity must be respected. The inviolability of borders is not up for negotiation. These are universal, sacrosanct principles enshrined in international law. They apply everywhere.
So then you had the Russian ambassador condemning the United States, and the Russian ambassador says, okay, this is your rules-based order that you used to lecture us on.
Here you go. More hypocrisy, more fucking blatant, giving the Russians just a gift, right? A fucking gift to use on their own behalf. And it's just, again, it's blatantly hypocritical. It's blatantly fucking goes against everything that we know that Russia is now undertaking. But again, pertaining to what they're specifically talking about in the actions of the United States, that's what Donald Trump has afforded them ability to do.
What you lectured us on, really? Great work, world. Maybe we should do it a different way. See, it gives Russia the ability to say this. Here, play this clip.
Depending upon the political landscape. Today, we are reaping the consequences of their recklessness and selectivity in matters related to respect for the norms of international law, which are...
Have a fucking Russian official talking about the norms and the security in the UN Security Council right now, and him being actually right as to the actions undertaken by the United States is so fucking infuriating, is so hypocritical, and is so fucking blatantly stupid for this Trump administration to hand over as a victory to them. It's again, if this doesn't infuriate you, I don't know what will. Russia now talking about us, now trying to, again, fucking soapbox to us about having fucking moral high ground about security, about international law. Like, give me a fucking break.
Which were linked to the so-called rules-based world order. Here is your rules-based world order in all of its glory, which is horrifying.
More from the Russian ambassador here, attacking the United States and saying we're appalled by the unparalleled cynicism which Washington did not even attempt to conceal its true aims of taking all of the resources from Venezuela. Here, play this clip.
Of aggression due to a fear of angering the American global gendarme, which is attempting to once again rear its head. We are particularly appalled by the unparalleled cynicism Washington did not even attempt to conceal the true aims of its criminal operation, namely the establishment of unbridled control over Venezuela's natural resources. And
this is not even given the hint of diplomacy, not even given the hint of democracy, not even given the hint of like we went in there for fucking legitimate reasons, right? This is what the blatant rhetoric from Marco Rubio, the blatant rhetoric from Lindsey Graham, from Donald Trump, from Pete Hegseth, from all these fucking scumbags is going to use, and how Russia is now using that language, using the reasoning, using the fucking, the unabashed fucking, I don't know what you'd call it, autocrat, what's that word? Autocracy. That's the word right there that I was looking for. I don't know how that slipped the brain, but it did slip the brain. My apologies. But it's just clear and blatant autocracy, fascism. I don't know. It's just a clear and blatant takeover. And it's now being justified by the Russian fucking ambassador to the UN to, again, soapbox to the United States, which is just wild.
Of their hegemonical ambitions in Latin America.
Yeah, that's
in this way, Washington is generating fresh momentum.
And just think about it. Russia, who engages in the same conduct
And again,
right
just
now.
for the sake of time, because I know we probably don't have a ton. We got a ton left to get into, and if we need to, we can dive back into that one. But I also want to show how the MAGA podcasters, this is another Midas Touch video, talking about how the MAGA podcasters are abandoning Trump and are attacking one another, something that we've been bringing up for a long time here on the show. I believe this is specifically pertaining to the strikes, though, and I know another one was like Megyn Kelly I saw, who was, again, calling out Fox News for their coverage, calling out Trump for these fucking strikes, really wasn't going the full length, didn't go the full Lebowski, but was saying that she was going to stay, I think she represented it to like a traffic light. She wasn't the green light. She wasn't the red light. She was staying in the yellow, I believe is how she kind of put this in terms. But this is a couple examples. And again, we'll just fly into the clips that he plays here from these MAGA podcasters. Here's one of them that Ben brought up. And this is him kind of just showing their displeasure in what the Trump administration has been doing lately.
About Donald Trump and Trump's regime. Play this clip.
I'm going to say this right now, and I mean this. Okay, Donald Trump, you've lost touch with your fucking base. You've lost touch with reality of what people actually want to see. And the people around you are either not telling you the truth or you're fucking in on it.
And forgive me, I'm not familiar with who this podcast is, but clearly somebody that had feelings, that had fifis for Donald Trump, that I can guarantee voted for Donald Trump, now showing his clear displeasure for what's been going on in no uncertain terms.
If you're not in on it, I would appreciate for you and I to have a discussion so I could inform you about what these people really want. Okay, so this can go on Twitter, and you can have your people call me, and I will get my fucking happy ass on an airplane, and I'll sit down and enjoy a motherfucking Big Mac with you, and we will fucking get real clear about what people actually want, because the motherfuckers around you are either full of shit or you're in on it.
Yeah.
And that's where people believe right now. Okay. And here's the thing.
Well, the motherfuckers surrounding you are either in on it, right? They're either coaching you and you're too dumb to know any better, or you're in on it. And again, he's talking about Donald Trump specifically and the cronies now surrounding him. And again, I don't know if this is specifically pertaining to the Venezuelan strikes or the lack of, change in affordability or cost for the American people. That whole sort of thing that we know has been a huge sticking point for people leaving MAGA as well. I don't know if he defines it, but you can clearly see that he's upset. You can clearly see that the rhetoric and the people on these podcasts are much more willing to speak up and call out Donald Trump than they were just, I don't know, let's say 11 months ago before he started his second term.
How do people believe that?
Yes. And here's the thing. Okay. I said on last show, you're going to go down as the president who had the opportunity to fix this country and chose not to. And you might say, oh, well, that doesn't really fucking matter. Well, you know what? It's going to matter, because your kids are going to get blackballed in America. Okay.
I mean, again, he's kind of spitting facts here as it pertains to what a lot of the MAGA base is feeling. Like, it seems like here he put it in clear terms. You had the chance to be the person to kind of save America, like he said he was going to, but you're also going to be looked at as the person that totally fucking just left that responsibility at the front door and did nothing, again, to fulfill your promises to the base, to the people that you promised to get elected the second time with. And again, no uncertain terms is he calling out Donald Trump here.
Your legacy is going to be ruined. The Trump name will be a fucking joke. And I know you care about those things.
Yeah.
And you should.
Former MAGA podcaster Candace Owens just went on Piers Morgan, and here's what she had to say about Donald Trump. Let's play this clip.
Are you done with Donald Trump, or could you see a way that you would end up perhaps voting for him? Oh, you can't run again, obviously, but would you support him publicly again?
So I want to be clear. I don't regret voting for Donald Trump above Kamala. I think he was the better candidate, certainly a better candidate above
Kamala.
Joe Biden. But what I will say is that he's been a chronic disappointment. And I feel embarrassed that I told people to go vote for him, because this wasn't going to happen and it is happening. But I just think that the picture of politics in America is going to look very differently because of his actions. So I don't know where we go from here. I really don't. But this is not the candidate that I voted for.
Then you had the former MAGA podcaster Tim Dillon, who says the Trump regime is over. Trump is a lame duck. Bye-bye, Donald. Watch what MAGA or former MAGA podcaster Tim Dillon has to say. Here, play this clip right here.
Let's look at Trump here. And I do think, unfortunately, this kind of is the end of, and I say unfortunately, not because I care. truly. But I say unfortunately because it seems to not be doing anything good for anyone. This is the end of the Trump administration. This is the beginning of the lame duck presidency. It's obvious to everyone, even his most ardent supporters show up to the White House, like Laura Ingraham, and she's kind of shocked on what the hell's going on. Now we'll start, 3 years of talking about the ballroom. He will trail off. He will get older. He's adorned the White House in gold. Epstein's going to suck the oxygen out of a lot of this. We're going to talk about that a little later on. Apparently AI, by the way, the only thing I'm sure of about AI, I'm not an expert, is that AI, as soon as we have robots running around this country, they'll all be pedophiles too. There's no one in power that will apparently just not be a pedophile. All these robots will be pedophiles. 100% will deal with pedophile robots. Our first robot president will be a pedophile. I know that. It's the only thing I know. Our first AI robot
And again,
president.
a lot of the things that he already talked about right there that he thinks we're going to see in the future are things that we've been seeing for fucking years now. Donald Trump's cognitive ability just completely he's just completely lost all of it, right? It's just gone. I mean, the aging, the fucking slurring, the sweating, the falling asleep. Again, the incoherence, the inability to complete whole sentences, the slurring of words, him continuously bragging about his cognitive abilities and the test that he took, even though it's like a fucking Alzheimer test, right? It's like, a dementia test, excuse me. It's like, what are we talking about here? A lot of that stuff we've already seen, and these people just have been, blind. They've had the blinders onto it, but now it's getting to that point where nobody can deny it. It's becoming ever more apparent to even the most sycophantic of believers and followers of Donald Trump, and people like Tim Dillon, people like Candace Owens, people like the rest of them. I was trying to find the Megyn Kelly clip where she kind of talks about why she's dressed like fucking Catwoman. I also don't know. Like, I don't know if she got a new role as fucking Catwoman coming up. But one of these she's talking about, let me see here. Let me see which one of these.
You heard him saying we were prepared to do a second strike in Venezuela, that we are going to run Venezuela. We're going to fix it. We're going to have elections at the right time there. Here is his warning to Colombia's president, Gustavo Petro, in SAT 10. This is from yesterday.
Colombia is very sick, too, run by a sick man who likes making cocaine and selling it to the United States. And he's not going to be doing
again, that's now Colombia, Cuba, Greenland, Mexico, China. I mean, how many fucking other places are we going into? I mean, because again, the way that fucking Lindsey Graham was talking about it, Cuba's like tomorrow. Like, this isn't something that even has to be thought about anymore. It's already a fucking done deal, the way Lindsey Graham was talking about it. And I believe he just went on, and I don't know if this was an old clip, but I believe he just went on a show and put on like a Make Iran Great hat on again, if I'm not mistaken, unless that was an old clip. Let me see. Iran. Let me see if I can type that in real quick. Unless that was an old clip. No, it was. Yeah, check this out. Ready? Put this on the screen. There's another one too. Here you go. Make Iran Great Again is the hat that fucking Lindsey Graham urges Trump to make Iran great again as U.S. considers. Yeah, I'll play the clip. Check this out. Fucking tell me how bloodthirsty these bastards are, right? Just nobody's more happy. If Lindsey Graham is happy, the United States is fucked. That we just undertook some fucking shady, shisty war deal that we're going to profit from. The same way that he talks about the war in Ukraine and helping Ukraine. It's all about profit. It's all about profit. It's all about fucking profit. Has nothing to do with helping or benefiting the people of Ukraine. But here's Lindsey Graham just recently talking about not Cuba, again, not Greenland, not Colombia like everybody else, and has been talking about, including himself. But now we're talking about going back into Iran, apparently. Check this out.
They've chosen not to live this way anymore. And unlike Obama, President Trump has not turned his back on the people of Iran. So I pray and hope that 2026 will be the year that we make Iran great again.
Now, besides being probably the most cringeworthy moment that ever took place on fucking television by somebody that clearly probably had a couple of glasses of champagne, maybe some whiskey before he got on to, but look at how ridiculous he looks. He's now on Fox News with a Make Iran Great Again hat with the Iranian flag, looking like a complete and total fucking dick, like a limp dick with a hat on is what he looks like right now. Look at that mess of a man right now. Look at that. And these warmongers, right? These fucking people, these bloodthirsty fucking human beings that can't get enough of death and destruction and war and fucking sending weapons and you know, profiting from war all over the place. Again, when Lindsey Graham is happy, something's going wrong, right? When he's this thrilled about U.S. military action, something is fucking drastically wrong. And that's what I need you to continue to remember. But yeah, that's Lindsey Graham on Fox News with the Make Iran Great hat again on. And that's beyond the part on Air Force One that we showed where he's talking about going into Cuba next. And that was already basically a done deal. We don't even have to think about it. That was just, it is what it is. Iran better watch out. And again, just for the sake of time, let me see if there was any more on this video here. We'll dive into this one more time and see if there's any other ones besides Tim Dillon. Yeah, there was this one chick as well. Let me see this. Play this one as well.
Unfollow spree. And let me tell you why. The mental gymnastics required to stand by your man under these conditions truly, in my opinion, is Olympic level. And I have followed some of these people for years, admired.
So she's talking about going on a MAGA unfollow spree. So this is more evidence that we've been talking about here on Blunt Politics of that fucking, the revolt of people, you know, getting away from MAGA and trying to find other, you know, little branches that have stemmed off to latch onto. Well, this is, again, just more evidence to go towards that, to confirm that as being the truth. And it's continuously happening where all of these people, they're unfollowing the people that they once followed for MAGA. They can't stand them anymore. Now they've switched to America First or some other fucking category. But again, they're branching away from MAGA. Donald Trump is losing his grip that he once held, and that's what everybody, all these people are talking about. Where you know, fucking the first guy that we saw said Donald Trump was completely out of touch with his base, has totally lost touch with the base, with what they want, what they need, what they're asking for, and what they will support. Most importantly,
their ability to speak out when the opinion was unpopular. But now I'm starting to think, okay, they were countering the system, but not countering the system, which is the reason why many of us voted for this administration in the first place. Here's some of my problems with this administration. The Epstein list, okay? Referring to the Epstein list as the Epstein hoax after running your entire campaign on that is a slap in the face to all of us. Do you think we are stupid? You cannot gaslight me enough into forgetting that this admin said they were going to release the Epstein list. Pam Bondi said it was on her desk, okay?
And again, this is a Republican, obviously conservative with the Jesus People sweatshirt on, talking about what we've been telling you here, what it goes back to, you know, the Epstein files. We'll see what else she names, but we'll see how many of those pertain to, again, the three main talking points that we continuously bring up as we talk about, again, people leaving MAGA.
Still sending billions of dollars overseas to fund foreign wars, denying America's interest, right? We've got some problems here in the mainland. Approving PFA pesticides to be sprayed all over our fruit and vegetables. It's not limited to your fruit and vegetables. This is going into our soil. It's going to leak into our water supply. We are going to be drinking it. Forever chemicals are linked to hormone disruption, thyroid dysfunction, cancer. It's an atrocity.
And all this time, I thought Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was doing a fantastic job. I thought he was really doing a fantastic job. He did at least 75 push-ups yesterday. So I can't see why you went from praising Robert F. Kennedy to now talking about the pesticides that he put on the food now.
When we're talking about making America healthy again, PFA pesticides is crazy. Debt normalization, 50-year mortgages, essentially saying your kids will never own anything ever. They will never own that little plot of land, the American dream. They're never going to own their own home. The fact that 90% of Black Friday purchases were made using a buy now, pay later like Klarna. That's also crazy. Surveillance expansion through Palantir. Think China during COVID. Yeah, that sounds extreme, doesn't it?
I don't know. It's crazy because it's almost like all of the things that we fucking warned you conservatives about. That's all of the things that we were talking about. Like, hey, you might not want to vote for this fucking child grubbing, fucking Epstein loving prick, right? For the second time, considering what we saw take place in this country the first time, right? Remember how he had to bail out the farmers the first time because he continuously was fucking doing business with China. Remember how he paid more in taxes to China than he did to the United States as he was fucking president? Remember that whole fucking thing? It was like $200,000 to China. Meanwhile, he paid $750 to the United States. Did that seem like somebody that was going to have the best interest of the people of the fucking United States at heart? Or does that seem like somebody that was just in it for his own fucking damn right and didn't care and was going to, partner up with the worst of the worst people to get these business deals done, to get these fucking takeovers done around the world, whatever was necessary. But wasn't this shit that we all fucking told you about, the Palantir, the spying, the billionaires that were fucking funding Donald Trump's campaign, and the definite fucking kickbacks that they were going to get if Donald Trump got back in office, right? That there was a specific reason that these defense contractors were invested in the fucking ballroom, and it wasn't so they could have a fucking nice seat at the ballroom, right? I'm pretty sure these are all things that we were talking about, the fucking how dangerous it would be to have RF fucking K in there, right? Okay, another one of these things that you're talking about, how the Epstein files was going to be a huge fucking problem and how he was going to be all over it. That's another thing. All of these things that we warned these conservatives about, and they're fucking now just being like, wow, geez, you should really take a look at these things. Wish somebody brought that to my attention sooner. Fucking idiots. Let's see. I'm going to go on and see if there's any more here just for the sake of time. Oh, yeah, there's one Alex. Play this one Alex Jones, and then we'll dive on from it. Here, check this out.
I think he is a intelligence asset. My opinion, how he operates, Levin. I believe they are officially Israeli spies.
Ladies and gentlemen, I do believe I will fight for my country.
I'm just an average guy who read public documents where the elite said they were going to enslave us and destroy America, and I'm not going to be like yuppie scum and deny the threat to my country. I'm going to fight back.
I do believe he's a Mossad asset. Donald Trump now is probably Mossad. Yeah, that's probably what happened. He ate the gay frogs. I told him not to eat the gay frogs. He ate the gay frogs and turned him into Mossad. He's now best friends with Netanyahu. He's partnered up booty to booty with Vladimir Putin. I don't know. I've never seen anything like it, ladies and gentlemen. It must have been the gay frogs.
And I don't hate Israel in and of itself existing. I do hate people that act like they're Americans and act like they're loyal when everything they do flies in the face of that. And
it's now Israel first, ladies and gentlemen. It's now Israel first. We are now the United States of Jerusalem. Forget about the United States of America. That has gone by the wayside. We are now the United States of Vladimir Putin and Benjamin Netanyahu.
I believe from action and behavior that Mark Levin and Ben Shapiro are actual.
Oh, excuse me. I retract my statement. That wasn't Donald Trump. That was actually Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro, Mark Levin, Mossad assets. But, same thing, almost.
Intelligence operatives, card carrying with Israeli intelligence agency.
And again, this is just more evidence to go towards the MAGA infighting, right? So this is Alex Jones using his conspiracy fucking drug-addled mind to go after Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin when really he's most effective. And these fucking MAGA commentators, as I always say, are most effective when they're in lockstep going after the left, right? Not when they're attacking each other. I mean, needless to say, that's not when you're going to be most effective, is when your own side is attacking your own side. But this is what's been taking place, and this is how infiltrated this is into all of these, right-wing MAGA podcasters, where Alex Jones is calling out fucking Ben Shapiro, not even just calling him out, but calling him a literal Mossad agent. Right? This is how deep it's gotten, the feud between Candace Owens and Tim Pool and Ben Shapiro and all of them, Daily Wire in general. It's continued to flow downhill. The trickle down effect has taken place, but it's just with the conspiracy assholes in the MAGA base. That's the difference.
I know the cut of their.
Now, here's what Ben Shapiro.
He goes on. There's a few more. I think Ben Shapiro. We played with Ben Shapiro, I had to say, at Turning Points. So just for the sake of time, let's get into, again, talking about whether or not Donald Trump is correct on whether or not the big oil is actually going to follow him down to Venezuela. Because there's also another aspect to this, and I'll get to the Mr. Global video, which kind of explains it, where these oil companies might have just as much of an interest to go down there and keep the oil production low, rather than actually produce it, send it to the United States, and try to profit off of that. Because, as he'll explain, a lot of these oil companies have already previously made large investments into newer infrastructure, into, again, far better technology in Canada. And why would they now move down to Venezuela to directly compete against their own investments in Canada? So I'll let him explain. Again, he was worked in the oil companies or the oil conglomerate and knows a lot about it. But this is just a CNN business article talking about how big oil doesn't share Donald Trump's dream of making Venezuela oil great again. right? Again, flying in direct contravention right in the face of everything that Donald Trump wanted to lead you to believe on Air Force One, where he said he called the oil companies before he had even talked to Congress, and he let them know, and they were fucking gung-ho, and they wanted to be down there. Well, it doesn't seem like that is the case, because President Donald Trump may have made a major miscalculation about Venezuela's oil. Trump has expressed excitement over the prospect of U.S. oil companies getting their hands on Venezuela's vast oil resources, but industry sources tell CNN that American oil executives are unlikely to dive headfirst into Venezuela for multiple reasons. The situation on the ground remains very uncertain. Venezuela's oil industry is in shambles, and Caracas has history of seizing oil assets. So think about it. Typically, the same thing that happens with the stock market. Typically, when there's no rhyme or reason, when there's no control over anything, when you can't predict the future, right? It doesn't bode well for lending. It doesn't bode well for investing. When the stock market is completely unpredictable, the way that Donald Trump had it earlier on, and still today with the tariffs and the taking away of the tariffs and putting them back on, right? So that uncertainty, the unsettling nature of that, and who's running Venezuela, what the pro-Maduro faction still remains to do, what the fucking future holds, is not going to lend to these oil companies just going down there and spending billions and trillions of dollars investing if they don't know for certain, right, that they're going to be able to hold on to that shit. If there's going to be some, uprising, civil war, if Venezuela is going to collapse because of the regime change, right? Why the fuck would these companies go spend billions and trillions of dollars down there to try to, revamp the outdated oil infrastructure when they have vastly superior infrastructure and vastly superior fucking technology in Canada that produces the same kind of type of crude oil that they get in Venezuela? Right. So again, if anything, and like I said, we'll play the Mr. Global video, they might go down there to try to keep the production low so that they aren't competing with themselves in their ventures in Canada. So this says the biggest problem perhaps is that oil prices are too low today to justify spending gobs of money, possibly tens of billions of dollars that would require, excuse me, let's put this back on the screen. My apologies. That would require the infrastructure to revive Venezuela's decaying oil industry. Quote, the appetite for jumping into Venezuela right now is pretty low. We have no idea what the government looks like there. One well-placed industry source told CNN on Monday, he says, quote, the president's desire is different than the industry's, and the White House would have known that if they had communicated with the industry prior to the operation on Saturday, which again flies directly in the face of, so basically says Donald Trump's lying about when he says he did contact the oil companies before he went in. Like he said on Air Force One. We heard him. We played it on this fucking show. We played it, I believe it was just yesterday. Where he said, no, I contacted them. They knew before fucking Congress knew. They're all gung-ho. We're ready to go. Well, this is saying that he didn't communicate with them, or at least all of them, right? Maybe he talked to one or two people. I'm not sure. But I would even, venture to say that would be a lie, because these people are saying if he had just communicated with us, we could have passed on the information that said, no, we aren't going to go spend billions of dollars down there to that fucking crumbling infrastructure in a country that we don't know the future of. It says, quote, all of our oil companies are ready and willing to make big investments in Venezuela that will rebuild their infrastructure, which was destroyed by the illegitimate Maduro regime. That was said by a White House spokeswoman, Taylor Rogers, in a statement. American oil companies will do an incredible job for the people of Venezuela and will represent the United States as well. So what's coming from the White House and what's coming from these oil companies are two totally, vastly different statements. Right? A senior White House official told CNN that Energy Secretary Chris Wright and Secretary of State Marco Rubio will be leading the effort to engage with the oil industry on behalf of Trump. The official said in correspondence with an oil company has already begun and will continue. Right? We'll meet with oil executives this week to discuss U.S. companies once again standing up for drilling oil in Venezuela, a spokesperson for the Energy Department said. Two sources previously told CNN that while Trump officials engaged U.S. oil companies to weigh interest in returning to Venezuela, energy companies were reluctant to commit to reinvesting there. Right? So it sounds like that they've titled this Rhetoric Before Reality. Venezuela has more proven oil reserves than any other country on the planet, more than Iraq, Russia, and the United States combined, according to federal estimates. Yet, when oil companies decide to invest far-flung drilling projects, they need confidence about what the operating environment will look like there in years, if not decades, into the future. These days, it's hard to feel solid about Venezuela's form of government and institutions weeks from now, let alone years from now. So basically, the instability, right? The unassuredness of what's going to take place there doesn't bode well, doesn't lend to people wanting to go spend billions of dollars down there against what Donald Trump is telling you. Just because there are oil reserves, even the largest in the world, doesn't mean you're necessarily going to produce there, another industry source told CNN. This isn't like standing up a food truck operation, right? So this source said the Trump administration put rhetoric before reality and stressed political stability is, quote, paramount when companies weigh investing overseas. This goes on to show you just a little bit of chart about how Venezuela is broke, about their oil reserves. However, the return to Venezuela in its glory days of 3 million barrels per day from the late 90s in oil and gas would need to reach a staggering $183 billion through 2040, according to Reichstad's analysis. So again, you can see the amount of infrastructure, you can see the amount of investment and how long they need like security for in order for these companies to go down there and actually spend the money that Donald Trump is talking about them spending in order to get the profits, the benefits that they want. So it doesn't seem like Donald Trump had any prior planning or any, post planning went into this. But let me just play this, if I may, because this is, again, from Mr. Global. He is very knowledgeable on the oil industry, on what's happening with gas prices. He was, I don't know his specific job that he used to hold, but he was definitely higher up in the oil industry, no longer, but now kind of gives his advice. He's got a YouTube channel. He's got a TikTok. So follow him on YouTube at Mr. Global, I believe. But yeah, this is him replying to a question or a comment that he got on his video that says U.S. oil corporations will get Venezuela oil dirt cheap. Oil price will lower, which drives growth. They are going to use this new energy to build AI and EV. So this is him responding to that comment. And listen to how what he's talking about here directly goes in line with what we were just talking about in this CNN business article, right? And then I believe there's a couple other ones. Yeah, this one too. This is a CBS News article. Venezuela oil industry too shaky for U.S. companies to rush to re-enter. So that's, again, corroborating that last statement. But let me play this, put this on the screen, and I'll let you listen to him because he has some pretty good insights into this. And again, the investments that just went into Canada and why it wouldn't be smart for these oil companies to, again, be investing and competing with themselves.
I just want to say you're welcome because I'm about to teach you something completely for free. All right. U.S. oil companies will get Venezuela oil dirt cheap. Oil prices will lower, which drives growth. Which U.S. oil companies are going to go to Venezuela and do that? Do you know where all of the U.S. oil companies that left Venezuela went? We still needed to produce heavy oil. They went to Canada to produce a similar grade of oil, and they invested $500 billion there. What do you think happens if they go to Venezuela and produce a bunch of oil that competes with theirs? It drives down the value of Western Canadian Select oil. They would literally be shooting themselves in the foot if they returned to Venezuela. The only way I could see them returning there would be so they could control the amount of oil that's produced there and keep it minimal so they don't harm their $500 billion in investments in Canada. Does that make sense? Now, you could have read about all this in the morning in my new Forbes article that is coming out, Why Big Oil Won't Likely Return to Venezuela. But since you said something today, I thought I would respond to it today. Once again, you're welcome.
And again, I mean, it just makes sense because obviously in Canada, their $500 billion investment with much better infrastructure, again, a much more stable state that they're that they're running in. They can be, assured of that Canada is going to be there for quite some time. It's going to be run in a certain specific way for quite some time, whether you agree or disagree with the way it's run. Like, it does have that stability to count on that Venezuela obviously does not. Why would they go down there to spend billions, if not trillions, to have to rebuild infrastructure, the shipping, the oil refineries, the way it's fucking produced, everything about it, it's going to be need to be revamped, redone. The technology is going to have to be upgraded. It's going to cost a fortune. Why would they do that if they already have a substantial infrastructure already set up in Canada for very similar grade of oil? Does that make any sense? Right? It doesn't make any sense. And he says the only way it could make sense, and he doesn't say this is even, something that he's seen, or is it, could be a possibility that he's seen so far. But the only way they'd go down there is to try to, again, maybe not invest and to keep the production low, so then they could offset the price of what they're doing in Canada and still, keep the profits high, right? But that is not what Donald Trump is saying. That's not what he's promoting as what these companies want to do. So nothing is lining up here. Nothing is really lining up. Even the big reason that we say we're going in there, the main reason, the oil and fucking how obvious it is, even that's not stacking up right now. Even that doesn't seem to be a consistent reality with the actions that the United States just undertook. Like, we just seemingly went into a country to undertake and overthrow its government, to take over its natural resources, and we don't have the fucking companies that even want to go down there to do it. What, like, the company's like, no, we're good. We're in Canada. We're good. That shit sucks. We're gonna have to rebuild. We don't know what the fuck's going on down there. I don't know what you're doing, but thanks, but no thanks. We're good up here. Fucking parlez-vous français, baby. Hey, like, what the fuck? Like, none of it really makes any fucking sense unless you're talking about let me see if I can bring this up. Unless you're talking about this. And again, big shout out to our good friend Hal Sparks, something that I know he's talked about in the past before. But this is put up by Jim Stewartson, and he says, just after the Trump regime invaded Venezuela and captured its president, Stephen Miller's wife, Katie, who works for Elon Musk, tweeted a threat to Greenland, which is the territory of Denmark, a NATO nation. A few hours later, Musk and Trump had dinner together for the first time since Musk and Trump was in the Epstein files. Musk said Trump was in the Epstein files. I believe the timing of this reunion is no coincidence. While there are numerous toxic winds flowing through this regime, the foreign policy all fits into a plan from the 1930s by Technocracy Inc., a fascistic movement calling for the elimination of a democracy in favor of rule by technocrats. Technocracy charters included the creation of a super state called the Technate of America, spanning from Greenland to Venezuela. Sound familiar? Technocracy was led in Canada by Joshua Haldeman, Elon Musk's grandfather, a vicious racist who moved from his family to apartheid South Africa in 1950. Here's a link to it in case you want it. Many of Musk's beliefs are simply passed down directly through this family, including, as it appears, the idea of creating a technate. And then there's another link you can go to here of www.mindwar.com, Technate of America Musk game to Trump. To Musk, Trump is a malleable puppet in a much bigger game. Venezuela is only the beginning. And this goes on to show you, the Technate states all the way from Greenland down to fucking Venezuela, and how and basically how this is supposed to be set up. So it almost looks like it's much more in line with what Peter Thiel, what Elon Musk, and what the rest of these fucking technates, I guess you could call them, want to believe and want to see enacted, as opposed to just the overtaking of the country for the oil or for the natural resources or for this or for that. It almost seems like this is much more in line with what the fuck's going on. And again, big shout out to Hal and other people that have been covering this for quite some time. Credit where credit is due. Here's another picture and aspect where you can see from Katie Miller, and she says soon, right? And she's got this whole thing set up as an American territory in Greenland, right? So this is the threat that she put out there. And then you got this one by Bo Leiden. President Trump and Elon Musk are having dinner together at Mar-a-Lago after Trump ended the communist dictatorship in Venezuela. God bless these heroes. So you can see Elon down the bottom here with Trump pictured. Again, I don't know. You know what I mean? It remains to be seen what comes from this and where we go from here. But again, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the similarities in what's being undertaken and what is stated. And this was one of the links here: Sins of the Grandparents, Joshua Haldeman, in the Conspiracy, Rotting Teeth in Alberta. I could see. Let me see if I'll post this link in the chat right now. Copy. Put this in the chat. Can I do that? Am I allowed to do that? Should be able to, right? So there's the first link in case you want to check that out, right? And then I'll go back to the second link just so you guys can have all the information that I have. And this is the second one here. This is the Technate of America Musk game of ketamine risk. And of course, I'm not sure if you need to be subscribed. Doesn't look like you need to be, but this looks like it gives the whole backstory of Elon's grandfather. And definitely something that we should be at least informed about and ready to defend in case it becomes, even more apparent that something even more sinister than what we thought about an oil takeover is behind the scenes. So let me get this link here, copy. I'll put this in the chat as well. Paste. That way you guys can have that. And, again, you guys have everything that I have. All right. So, yeah, I'm just saying, like Tucker fucking Carlson, I'm just asking questions here. And again, I wanted to make sure that, I give credit where credit is due, because like I said, our good friend House Box has done great work in talking about this in the past. So, just want to bring that up. And again, like I said, there's more articles that kind of point in the similar direction. Is it's like, okay, well, these oil companies don't seem really fucking ready or willing or able to go down there at this point. So what are we actually talking about? Is Donald Trump just going to like fucking scoop it out of the ground with his hands and fly back to the United States with like fucking handfuls of oil, of crude oil, and that's how we're going to do it? Because it doesn't seem like the oil companies really give a shit at this point. Let me see if this little video here says anything.
Fabrication, all sorts of.
Let me see. I'll pause it, start from the beginning. Let me see if this gives any insight into what the oil companies are saying.
The U.S. capture comes as President Donald Trump highlights Venezuela as being one of the richest crude oil reserves in the world. Speaking to reporters after Maduro's capture, President Trump said the U.S. is in charge now and will rebuild Venezuela's oil infrastructure. But there's a lot to talk about where this is concerned. Let's go live to Ed Hurst. He's the energy fellow at University of Houston. Ed, I come from oil and gas territory in Utah's Uinta Basin, northeastern Utah. We know that Houston is a major, major voice in how oil is produced and brought out of the ground, not only in the United States, but elsewhere. We also know that some of America's adversaries see that prime real estate of Venezuela, and this could affect things on a geopolitical sort of table. What do you know about what would have to happen to get Venezuela producing oil in a way that would benefit the United States and other people?
Well, Venezuela produces about 1.5 million barrels a day, uses about 1 million for internal uses. That's down from 3.5 million barrels a day 55, 60 years ago.
Yeah.
Exports about 500,000 barrels a day. A little bit goes to Cuba. Most of it goes to China. And China's been financially supporting the Venezuelan oil patch. It's going to take years and billions of dollars of reinvestment to bring the Venezuelan oil machine back online.
It's going to take years and billions of dollars of investment to bring this back online, right? And again, somebody much more knowledgeable in this area, somebody that's clearly much more involved in the aspects of what goes on behind the scenes and trying to actually get this type of stuff done and accomplished, and what goes into, again, building these sites, running these sites, needing government stability in order to, again, get companies to invest in these type of sites. So again, this doesn't seem, I don't know. It's nothing is fitting in, not that anything ever does with this fucking administration, but it just isn't lining up as it pertains to the way he thinks this like oil company takeover is going to line up.
It's been 25 years where the revenues have been diverted to first the Chavez regime and then the Maduro regime. Anybody going in there is going to have to staff up, make sure there's fabrication, all sorts of manufacturing facilities, professionals brought in too.
And that raises the question there, the benefit to the Venezuelan people, because if, let's just state, we'll stipulate that these companies are, let's just say that they are willing to go back in there and invest these billions and billions of dollars, and they'll have to rebuild not only the infrastructure, but also the people that work at these facilities, right? Do you think that they're going to go in there and trust the Venezuelans? You think they're going to go in there and trust the people that, again, ran this industry into the ground, whether at their behalf or behest or because of the, the higher ups? Or do you think they're going to bring in their own people? You're going to bring in their own workers, the people that they trust and can communicate with, as opposed to speaking Spanish, right? That doesn't seem like it's going to be a huge benefit to the Venezuelan people, the Venezuelan population. And again, it seems like they've replaced one fucking autocrat in fucking conglomerates that are raping and pillaging the oil industry, to another one in the Trump administration that wants to do the same thing, but seemingly doesn't have the backing to even get that done.
To rebuild the industry. And nobody's really certain of how that's going to work. The rule of law has been the rule of Maduro. And the Trump administration has simply replaced the president with the same regime, the same staffing, the same people. Chevron is already there.
You see how that now becomes a question? Because if there was some sort of coup behind the scenes, if there was some sort of stipulation and communication between the now acting president, right, her and her team with the United States, but she has to come out and keep up appearances to make it seem like she wasn't involved in it, then it just gives off the appearance that we've replaced one Maduro as a sycophant with a Maduro sycophant. You know, you see how that works? Because if they can't come out and rightly say, okay, we don't agree with what Maduro's saying, we were involved in this, we're now ready to take over and change things, then that doesn't give these companies the, the slightest bit of fucking assuredness that anything is going to change and that they should go down there and invest these billions and billions of dollars to seemingly compete with their other investments in Canada, producing very similar types of oil.
Does about 150,000 barrels a day, and that's on a production sharing arrangement. Chevron is compensated for its investment by taking a small share of what is produced. The other companies, ExxonMobil may take a look at it, but they've had their assets expropriated twice. ConocoPhillips, the same sort of story. Year in, year out, these majors in the U.S. have gone to other countries only to have their assets expropriated when things get to be too lucrative.
Well, and when we look at oil supply chains, we know that that has direct trickle down.
And again, he's talking about, guaranteed security in the future. He's saying even if these companies were to go down there and reestablish this whole fucking industry, right? What's to say that in 10 years, if there wasn't some sort of, if it's all of a sudden it's booming, now the fucking country people are seeing that it's being stolen by the United States. What's to say there's no fucking uprising from the people to, again, take back their oil industry, and we're just right back in the same spot. And all these companies have just invested billions and billions of dollars in fucking, in oil industry that has just been retaken by the Venezuelan people, by this, by this paramilitary force led by this guy or this woman, whatever it may be. But again, this security that they now find in Canada and have in Canada, they don't find elsewhere.
For the American.
And again, just for the sake of time, I'm going to dive into this real quick as well. Here's a BBC clip from James O'Brien just discussing what people, again, I like to look at. If you're just joining us, we've gotten a lot of new viewers recently, and I very much appreciate you guys for joining us. Please hit that like button, subscribe if you're not subscribed already. But we do like to take a look at a lot of these news resources outside of the United States to get a more accurate depiction of what's taking place, a more accurate view of what people are talking about and how they view these types of things. Because if you get stuck in just the mainstream media aspect of the United States, you're stuck in the agenda of these corporations. And, again, not to say that LBC or BBC or other corporations don't have an agenda, but typically the media people, the media figures on these stations are a little bit more free to give their valued opinion than they are, and much more able and willing to give their straight and valued opinion regardless of which way the network goes than they are in the United States. They're much more willing to play ball on Fox and OAN and fucking Newsmax, CBS, NBC, whatever it is now because of the threats by Donald Trump than these people are. So again, just a couple minutes here of his reaction to what's taking place in Venezuela. This is Trump is eyeing Greenland now. James O'Brien on Trump and Venezuela. And then to finish out, we'll be talking about this epic fucking mission undertaken by the Ukrainians that duped the Russians into not only thinking one of the most prominent opposition leaders to what they're doing was dead, but also getting them to fork over $500,000 to the Ukrainians to be used against the Russians. So beautiful story. If you haven't heard the Dennis Kaputskin story, we'll be getting into that right after this. So stay tuned. I appreciate it. Slava Ukraina, Heroyam Slava. Let's dive into James O'Brien's thoughts here on what Donald Trump has undertaken. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
And
don't forget,
and I read this to you
before we dive into that, because there are some new people. If you've sent in a super chat, if you send in a Venmo or anything like that, stick around to the end of the show because we go through and highlight and thank everybody that does so during the show, during the program. So I don't want you to think that, if it passes me by on the chat that you don't get recognition. Just stick around to the end of the show. We make sure to set aside time every show to thank everybody that comes through financially and contributes and donates memberships and all that great stuff. So again, stick around to the end of the show. I appreciate it.
At the time in April of last year about Donald Trump creating a world of rival fortresses. The surprising thing about Donald Trump's policies, he wrote, is that people are still surprised by them. Headlines express shock and disbelief whenever Trump assaults another pillar of the global liberal order. At the time, the best example was his support for Russia's claims for Ukrainian territory, or his contemplation of the forced annexation of Greenland, or the unleashing of financial chaos with his tariff announcements. And you have to sort of recognize that there is nothing surprising anymore about what he does. And sadly, there is nothing surprising about the desperate contortions undertaken by the people who love his moral corruption, who love his disgusting attitudes and behaviors to defend his latest conduct. Because I don't know today, let's start where we ended last year. I don't know who has rendered themselves more ridiculous in their attempts to defend Donald Trump. It is either Nigel Farage, who you probably have heard of, or a chap called Richard Littlejohn, who writes columns in the Daily Mail. They have scaled, I mean, frankly, extraordinary heights of absurdity in their inability to criticize Donald Trump, even as the evidence of his awfulness, well, even as all of his critics are proved completely and eternally right about everything. If you are built a certain way, if your psychology is sufficiently flawed, you can never climb down from a position that you've adopted. So you end up having to defend everything, up to and including, presumably, whatever it is in the Epstein files that he remains so desperate to keep secret that he's ended up invading a foreign sovereign country. Almost on the day, actually, that he was required to produce the goods or to lift the final sort of limits on those disclosures. So you've...
And again, that's LBC in fucking England, James O'Brien in fucking Britain, talking about the Epstein violation, right? The newest Epstein violation where they didn't disclose and talk about why they redacted the shit that they redacted. Again, you didn't hear that on a lot of the fucking mainstream media in the United States. I'm sure you didn't see it reported in a lot of the fucking outlets that you were looking at. I'm sure some of them did, to give them credit. But, I mean, here's James O'Brien on top of that. Again, got a lot to deal with in his own country, but seemingly on top of the violations from the DOJ, by the DOJ, as it pertains to the Epstein files, and not only how that relates to, again, the actions undertaken, how this is working as, again, a distraction, a cover-up. I'm not saying it's undertaken as that. We have to kind of be careful in how we make the distinction on that. Some things are undertaken as distractions, and some things are just used as distractions. But there's other things and other, goals behind the scenes. So we kind of have to be careful in how we do that. But again, he seems to be on top of it, where, again, a lot of the mainstream media, a lot of the outlets, and probably independent channels that you guys watch haven't been on top of that in reporting it the way they should.
Harari has, like many people, but he perhaps expresses himself best, been calling this out for years and been pointing it out and been describing every single facet, every aspect of it in beautiful, almost poetic terms. And on it goes, the annexation of Venezuela, effectively. Mario Puzo, all right, probably the least obvious character on this list. Mario Puzo, as you probably know, is the author of The Godfather. I watched the first two, the only two, really, Godfather films over the holiday period. And
my apologies. I do love James and his take on The Godfather, but I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit to where I believe he gets into more of the Greenland aspect, if I'm not mistaken.
Imaginable level, what Donald Trump has done in Venezuela, if you acknowledge the existence of Juan Orlando Hernandez. You just can't do it. You can't even begin to pretend that you're not completely corrupt, dishonest, intellectually bankrupt if you acknowledge his existence. So the only way you can do this is by not acknowledging his existence. It's a bit like John Cleese and the Second World War in that seminal episode of Fawlty Towers. Don't mention the Honduran president. We can pretend that Donald Trump's not all of the things that his critics, Trump derangement syndrome people, have told us that he is. He's not riding roughshod over international law. He's not riding roughshod over democratic norms. He's not probably focusing on Greenland next. He's none of those things. He's not a sort of fascistic despot in embryonic form. He's none of those things. And we can pretend. Just don't mention the guy he gave the pardon to. Answers on a postcard, please, as to why he would give a pardon to a former Honduran president serving a 45-year sentence for cocaine trafficking. You might find the answer to that in Mario Puzo's work. So that's piece number 3. And then piece number 4 is Fiona Hill, the brilliant, how you describe her, I mean, academic, civil servant, Russia expert, and her memories, which she shared with Congress when Trump was being impeached. You can't make this stuff up, can you? Her memories of the first Trump administration's plans, if you like, for Venezuela, the idea that there is anything surprising about what has happened or anything admirable, decent, or indeed to be welcomed. Fiona Hill was there during the first administration and described not only the ambitions to do it for the oil, first, second, third, for the oil.
Right, and again, everybody's so fucking sure, and I'm right there with you about like the whole oil aspect. But again, try to put that in, and, you know, add that up with, you know, what we've just kind of seen reported here by a lot of different people. You know, this one in particular, you can look at, you know, the CNN business article, Big Oil Doesn't Share Trump's Dream. Where was the CBS one? I know there's a CBS one here as well, where, you know, we were just looking at where they didn't fucking, Venezuela oil industry too shaky for U.S. companies. You know, it doesn't seem to be like, you know, we looked at Mr. Global's video here talking about their investments in Canada and how it would just be like a direct fucking competition with themselves in their investments in Canada if they went down there. So how do we justify like what's being said, the actions undertaken? And again, you know, I hate to seem conspiratorial, but again, a lot of it seems to push back to, again, when you're talking about Greenland, when you're talking about fucking from Greenland to Venezuela, it all being the United States territory and it being by, you know, owned and run by the richest 1%, right? Then it's hard not to point back to, you know, this type of aspect, this type of connection with Elon Musk and his grandfather and the Technocracy Incorporated, right? I mean, it's really hard not to fucking come back to these every time. You know, Sins of the Grandparents, Joshua Eldon's The Conspiracy of Rotting Teeth in Alberta, right? So again, I put these links in the chat earlier. If just in case, I'm going to throw them one more time in there. Copy, paste on this one. So there's that one for you guys, and then I'll do this one as well, so you guys can be up to speed. You guys can check this out. Copy, paste. All right, so now you guys have the information that I have. You guys can be, you know, link back to those articles as well. All right, closing it out now, because let me just throw this up on the screen, because this was chef's kiss, and this was about a week ago, maybe a little less than a week ago at this point, but definitely something that should be reported, because again, this is a situation that a movie could be made out of. So, okay, so opposition leaders in Russia. There's one very famous opposition leader that Russia has, and it's been a fucking thorn in Russia's side, and that the Ukrainians have now just enacted a perfect plan to utilize. And again, I'll let this is a Preston Stewart video. I'll let him kind of do the explaining, but this is, again, chef's fucking kiss, because not only did the Ukrainians make a fake video to get Russia to believe that this gentleman was killed, while being able to, again, get this guy in their care, using him as they see. And you'll see he was actually on a Zoom call presented to the Russians to prove his, you know, him being alive. But not only that, but there was the video was so fucking overwhelmingly like convincing to the Russians that they sent out the $500,000 reward for this guy's fucking murder, the killing of him, or the capture, or whatever, to the people, and it was just the Ukrainians the whole time. It was just the Ukrainians. So the Ukrainians fucking captured him, brought him to safety, said, all right, we'll make this fake video, and not only that, but we'll get the bounty for you. We'll get them to send it to Ukraine, and then we can use that to buy drones, weapons, ammunition, whatever we see fit to kill Russians. Oh, it's fantastic. But again, here's Preston Stewart video, and his title, I Can't Believe This Worked. All right, and this is the video on screen that you're looking at that the Ukrainians made to send to Russia. And you can see that it's you know, there'd be a couple red flags right off the bat if you're looking at that, but the Russians clearly aren't smart enough. All right, let's dive in.
So Ukraine just tricked Russia into donating $500,000 to the war effort by faking someone's death and collecting the bounty. This one's pretty wild. Now, a little over a week ago, Denis Nikitin was announced killed. He's the leader of the Russian volunteer.
And again, he says Nikitin in this. I'm not sure. His name is Denis Kaputsin, to the best of my knowledge. So I don't know if he just is mispronouncing it, or he read it somewhere, or he's just getting it mixed up with somebody else's name. But I believe his name is Denis Kaputsin, if I'm not mistaken.
Or the RVC put out a statement saying that he had been killed in the Zaporizhia direction. Number of Ukrainian official channels confirmed his death, and then it was celebrated inside of Russia.
Here you go. Just for clarity, this is Denis Kaputsin here. Back from the dead, Ukraine unveils ruse on death of anti-Putin neo-Nazi militia leader. Reports of Denis Nikitin's what? See, this says Denis Nikitin too. Now this says Denis Kaputsin, so maybe he's also known as. Maybe that's my mistake. But this says Denis Yevgenovich Kaputsin, also known as Denis Nikitin. Okay, all right. So it's also his nom de guerre. That might be his war name, White Rex. So again, obviously goes by multiple names. My apologies. Don't mean to get that wrong. I wasn't trying to correct where I didn't understand. But just to let you know, he did go by, in case you hear Kaputsin as well, it's also the same guy.
Hate him. And I understand it, right? He's a Russian who stood up an organization full of Russian citizens who are fighting alongside Ukraine against Putin specifically. They hate him so much, they put out a $500,000 bounty for his elimination. Now, when
check this video out, guys, right? This is the video, again, sent in by the Ukrainians to the Russians to kind of prove the fake death of this guy. Now, just look at the reaction of the person that sees clearly what it's supposed to be a tank, I would assume, or some sort of, armored personnel carrier. It's kind of hard to tell, judging by like the shortness of the barrel. I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell from this angle, which is one red flag. But also look at the reaction by the guy that has what seems to be ample time to get out of the way of this tank, which doesn't fire, but just kind of runs him over. Like, check out the reaction.
Sent over to the Russian
like he sees it, right? Face covered, obviously, but the reaction is like, oh, nothing.
Services, they were like, great. That's enough for us.
He just doesn't do anything, right? He just, and if you stop it there, I mean, does that look like a mask? Does that look like a mask, or does this look like this guy to you? Right? I mean, does that look like that guy? I'll put this back on the screen. I mean, just as another red flag, and it looks like to be a drone, if I'm not mistaken. Now that I look at it, now looking at the attachment on the end of that, it's probably a drone that they're trying to show it is. But still, the reaction by the guy, this like almost looks like a rubber fucking mask they wore in The Town, the movie The Town. To me, just would have been a couple red flags right off the bat, but the Russians clearly not smart enough.
Looks like he was killed. So they quickly wired over $500,000 that they thought was going to their collaborators inside of Ukrainian territory. Instead, it went to Ukrainian intelligence. So the GUR put out a statement saying to support the deception, a video of 2 strike drones.
Yeah, now you can tell. It's a little bit easier to tell now that I look at it that it's supposed to be a drone, that it is a drone being used and not a tank or an armored personnel carrier. My apologies. You can tell by the way it's going up and down. But, at first I thought that was a barrel.
The first drone flew into the minibus in which Nikitin was, and the second filmed the consequences of the strike, a burning car. The Russian special services believed the video and paid the Ukrainian intelligence officers the bounty, $500,000. Which will significantly enhance the combat capabilities of the GUR Special Forces. As a result of the special operation, a circle of individuals, the conspirators in the Russian Special Services, and those who tried to carry out the plan were identified. They say they've also received the corresponding amount of funds allocated by the Russian Special Services for the implementation of this crime. So 2, maybe 3 birds with one stone there. One.
Right. Again, not only did they get to take that guy out, not only did they get to, whoa, what happened there? Why am I cut off? It seems weird. Well, there you go. Yeah, not only did they get to do it to that guy and other people too, but they also got the bounty money for it. Let me see, because it was also, let me see if I could show where they put him on. Yeah, here's where they actually show him on the Zoom, right, afterwards to kind of prove that he's still alive. Let me throw this up on the screen because this is beautiful.
We're working with Russia to take out a Ukrainian military official. Now, as a proof of life video here, Budanov joined Nikitin in a Zoom call and said, quote, "First of all, Mr. Denis, I welcome you back to life. It's always pleasant."
So again, this is them quite obviously mocking the Russians. This is obviously the proof of life video to be like, hey, you idiots, you sent us $500,000. You believe the video that we made, but meanwhile, he's sitting right here giving us all the details, all the intel and information that we need, right? So this is him being on a Zoom call, just kind of, throwing it right back in the face of the Russians, which is pretty cool. And again, just for the sake of time, let me see. Does he go on to give any frontline updates just while we have the time? We got about 2 minutes left, so let me see if he goes in here to give any of the updates, because he actually just returned from Ukraine, I do believe, where he was delivering some vehicles. Let me see if he's got any updates.
Over to Kharkiv here on the map, and then down into the Kramatorsk, Sloviansk area, where we got a chance to meet up with a number of different units between Izium, Sloviansk, and Kramatorsk. So in fact, some of the stuff we're going to talk about today, we've got additional content coming in the next couple of days, hopefully. Some interviews with guys that took part in some of these clearance operations, and more detailed overview of UGV operations, some drone factories, and kind of my take on what things really look like once you get out here into this pocket.
So he was close, man. You know what I mean? He was close to them front lines. That's well closer than I was in any part in my time in Ukraine. He's in here in Sloviansk, the Kramatorsk area. You can see just how close to the front he was. Obviously doing great work and raising awareness for the people of Ukraine as well. But good to see. I don't know. Well, let me see here. What time? We're kind of out of time, unfortunately, as we typically run out of time with all the stuff that we have to cover. Just making sure that there's nothing else to dive into here. And I think we kind of got everything. But yeah, that whole plan and the undertaking of it by Ukraine and getting the $500,000 from Russia, while again getting this guy into safety and getting all the information and the intel that he has, is again something that movies are typically made out of. And I've seen movies made out of worse stories. Let's just say that. So again, once again, great show. I appreciate you guys so much for doing everything that you do and helping the show. I can't implore you enough to, if you have the financial capabilities, if you're in the position to do so, if you're, a little bit more stable than, a lot of people tend to be right now in this economy, then please think about contributing to the show financially. If it's $1 or $2, that's all I ask for. Nothing more than that. All contributions go really fucking they do go a long way to help this channel, as stupid as it sounds and as ridiculous as it sounds to have to do the self-promotional bullshit aspect of it. But let's get into thanking some people for those contributions right now, whether it be on Venmo or super chats or super stickers. Thank you guys once again. Let me see here. Anybody on the old Venmos here? Let me see. What do I do? Oh yeah, transactions. There we go. So I just want to say thank you to everybody over the last couple days. So Teague, thank you so much. Claudia, thank you so much. Christopher, thank you so much. Let's see, any messages attached. Keep truthing, says Teague. I sure will. Thank you so much. Claudia, let me see if you got any messages. Happy New Year, says Claudia. Oh, it's your birthday? Happy birthday, Claudia. Happy birthday. Please make sure everybody's wishing Claudia a happy birthday in the chat. That would be fantastic. Happy New Year to you as well. Thank you to Christopher. Let me see. Christopher says, Storm of Lions, appreciate you. Well, thank you so much, brother. I do appreciate you as well. That goes for Jessica, who just sent another $10. Thank you. Jessica says, keep up the hard work. I will, and it's only because of, again, the appreciation that you guys show. It's only because you guys continue to show up every podcast that we have become, what I feel is hitting our stride now. So thank you to all of those fine people that contributed via Venmo today. That is, again, a big help. It goes a long way in helping the channel. And then just for the last couple days too, I'd like to thank everybody: Allison, Moms, Yakov, Dame, Linda, Elaine, Allison, Nancy, all of you guys. Peter have been fantastic. Roxanne, thank you so much. Let me hop into the fine and fabulous people here on the tubes of you. Thank you guys. Let me see who's first. Peter, what's up, Peter C? What's up, buddy? DJT has fallen into another Russian trap with unlawful invasion. Please take a look at the Russian response at the UN Security Council. Hypocritical statement. We were right on top of that today, Peter. I hope you stayed tuned, because we did absolutely take a look at that, and we did call out the hypocrisy of it, but also the truthful statements, the truthful nature of the statements as well, and what we knew and how we knew China and Russia were going to use this aspect. So, Peter, thank you so much. Oh, thank you, Moms. I see you popping in there late. Oh no, is it? I don't know who it is. I'm gonna be safe, and I'm gonna say, let me update. I saw it come in there. I'm gonna be safe and say Suzanne. So thank you, Suzanne, for the 10, because I never know who it is. Great show today, very informative. Thank you, Suzanne. I appreciate it, because we always have different members with the same name, so I want to make sure I'm not getting anybody mixed up. So thank you so much, Suzanne, Jessica, Teague, Claudia, Christopher. You guys have been fantastic. Thank you so much, Peter, as well. You're 100% right, and I hope you stuck around to check that out. Thank you, Mark. January 6th. Remember the truth. Absolutely. 5 years, dude. Can you imagine that? 5 years since January 6th, since we sat on our couches and literally watched the storming of our own Capitol by United States citizens, perpetrated by the United States of America, the President of the United States of America, right? And his cronies. We learned about the fucking fake electors scheme, the bear spray, the guns, the gallows. I mean, don't forget it. And everything that we learned from the January 6th committee afterwards. So absolutely. 5 years, though. It's crazy to think. Crazy to think. Thank you again, Mark, for the one gifted, brother. Appreciate that. Make sure we're thanking everybody for gifted memberships and donating to the chat. JJ, what's up, brother? Thank you for the 2. Says, yes, Luke, 2-7. Not familiar? Oh, that's what the, the Homeland Security Department. What was the phrase? I forget it at this point. Let me see. No room at the inn. Yes, I believe this is what JJ is referring to. as far as, yes, Luke 2:7. So no room at the inn, which was the biblical reference. And again, that was against Hilton Hotels, which said they weren't going to allow ICE or DHS agents to stay on their property, which again, we commend them for doing so. So appreciate you for filling me in there. Thank you so much, Josh. January 6, 2020, we will never forget the real history, no matter how much they try to rewrite it. It's crazy, right? Thank you, Paul, for that. I appreciate the 1620 there. That was very what do you call it? Intentional, I should say, on that one, on the donation there. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much. Let's see who's next. Let's see here. Yakov, what's up, brother? Appreciate you, man. Hilton already came. Oh, they did? Or they say they're going to go back? Let me see. Hold on. Hilton caves to DHS. Let me see here. Hilton caves to MAGA Fury. I'm just going to throw this on the screen. Appreciate you for updating. I knew it wasn't going to last long. Like I said, we'll see if that continues. We'll see how long they can hold up to the pressure of people like Nick Sorter and fucking other idiots. But this says, Hilton caves to MAGA Fury after hotel turns away ICE. The franchise didn't take long to remove the hotel from their system. I don't have the subscription, but you can just see here, Hilton Hotels cave to MAGA backlash and remove Minnesota Hotel from its system after allegedly refused to house ICE agents. The independent hotel owner had assured us that they had fixed the problem. An official Hilton account posted on X on Tuesday, noting that after a video raised further concerns about the property, the franchise decided to take immediate action to remove this hotel from our systems. Assholes. All right, so I take back all the good things that I said about them. I appreciate you, Yakov, for keeping me informed. And like I said, I knew that was just it was only a matter of time before the pressure got to them and these idiots showing up. And again, the role reversal. But again, sucks to see. But I wish more people would step up the way that independent owner stepped up. And I hope he continues, to, I don't know what remove from their system means really, but, I hope he continues to step up. And even though if it's detrimental to him, he's going to continue to do so, I would imagine. But yeah, I appreciate that, Yakov, for filling me in on that one. Let me see here. Who else we got? We got Colleen. Thank you for the 20. Never forget January 6th. Just finished slamming my 3 reps and 1 senator via voicemail. Call in Nebraska to impeach. Thank you, Colleen, for not only watching and your contributions, but also staying active and staying involved in the ways you just explained. We all should be doing the same thing, calling the reps, calling our senators, imploring them to do everything that they possibly can do within their rights, within the powers that they have, to make sure that this doesn't happen again, to make sure that the people are held responsible for the actions that are continuously ongoing right now. The people are held responsible. So, Colleen, thank you so much. Thank you, Greg, as well. Lindsay hasn't been that happy since Grindr was invented, right? I mean, did you see the look on his face on Air Force One? Holy shit. I mean, and then again with the Make Iran Great Again hat, and it's like, what are we doing? Talk about Greenland, talking about Cuba. It's like, Jesus Christ, you fucking warmongers. I remember when you did this behind closed doors, right? Donald Trump has just, not only he's brought out the permission and given everybody tacit permission to be bigoted and racist, but also a warmonger now, and like, to project our strength and kill people on the fucking world stage again is okay, according to Lindsey Graham. But Greg, you're 100% right on that one. Just saying. How are you, dear? Very much appreciate you. Thank you so much for the 1 gifted. Goes a long way in helping our channel. I can't thank you enough. I hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you, Mark G, as well he says, Columbia takeover now, coffee prices will soar. Right. Thank God I don't drink coffee. I don't have to worry about that. But again, that's probably low on the list of things to worry about. But I know you're being facetious. I know you're kidding. I appreciate the contributions, my man. I appreciate you being here, as well as this one. Lindsay, like Giuliani, old man, just desperate to be relevant. Again, just think of, you don't have to go back that far to where Lindsey Graham said, count me out, especially as it pertains to January 6th. Ready? Again, I'm already over, so fuck it. Let's see here if we can do this one. Count me out. I'm sure everybody remembers this one. Yeah, we'll just do this short version.
Trump and I, we've had a hell of a journey. I hate it being this way. Oh my God, I hate it. From my point of view, he's been a consequential president. But today, first thing you'll see. All I can say is count me out. Enough is enough. I've tried to be helpful. But when this Wisconsin Supreme Court ruled,
Again, just to show you the fucking blatant hypocrisy and fucking ass kissing, shoe shining, lack of principles, lack of morals, lack of actual beliefs, and just that they only care about, again, one thing: their blood fucking lust, their expansionism, their, I don't know, imperialism. They're profiting from war. That's all they care about. And again, if he's going to get that, we saw that he caved just after he got pressure from his own fucking MAGAites, his own conservative base running through airports. So that didn't last long as well. But just to show you the flip flop, and again, these pricks have unbelievable. But yeah, you're 100% right. You're 100% right. Where do we leave off? Thank you, Mark. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you, Carol, as well. Poor Alex Jones, his voice still has not recovered from his grinder. We're all over grinder today. We're all over the grinder experience. No, and he's not. And again, it's good to see, as crazy as these people are, it's good to see that they're going after each other. It's good to see Alex Jones is going after people like Ben Shapiro. He's going after people like Mark Levin. Yeah, he might be on the side of Candace Owens and stuff like that, but he's not going after the left. He's not actually doing the bidding of Donald Trump. What he's doing is attacking his own people, and that's actually helping us and allowing us the ability to get our ideas out there. So it's good. It's really good. Appreciate that, Carol, as well. Appreciate you, Doug. Chris, thank you so much. I almost called you Doug. I don't know why, because I saw the Chris before the Doug. Give us your oil, your rare earth minerals. I mean, again, it's almost like they're switching the words around of the Bible, where it's like, give us your hungry, give us your poor, and now it's just give us your oil, give us your rare earth minerals. And again, it doesn't seem like that's even in line. And with, unless the entirety of the oil conglomerates and the oil industry has like this talking point where they're not actually behind what Donald Trump is doing, but they really are, then it doesn't even make sense as to what Donald Trump wants to get done anyway. Like, it doesn't seem like these companies are in any way on the same page as to what's going to happen now or in the future with Venezuela or with the oil as what Donald Trump wants you to believe or what he's saying. So again, we'll have to continue to look at this, obviously, as things unfold and as fucking Donald Trump comes out with new plans, and we'll have to see what actually does take place. But right now, nothing is lining up. Nothing is adding up. 2 + 2 does not equal 4. And nothing that Donald Trump is saying or promising to you even seems a remote possibility, even above the lies of it being about drugs and fentanyl and deaths, right? None of it makes sense. Absolutely none of it. So I appreciate you, Mark. You're right. Thank you, Easy Rita, for the $3 super sticker. We very much appreciate you. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you so much for your contributions. That goes for Miss Leslie as well. Miss Leslie, 1964. Thank you so much for the $5 contribution. Trump will use our tax dollars to support the oil companies just so he doesn't look bad. And when are the aliens coming to save us? And again, it doesn't even seem like the oil companies, even with U.S. taxpayer dollars, have the trust in what's going on in Venezuela to even take on that rebuilding, to take on that project. It just, again, like I said, none of it seems to be adding up. I very much appreciate your contribution. And it seems like that was the plan, right? And it seems like that's what Donald Trump wants you to believe is the plan. But again, coming and judging by what we've heard in the reporting and by these, the people in, with real connections to the oil industry, doesn't seem like something they want to undertake. It just doesn't. So I appreciate you, Leslie. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your contributions. Thank you, Colleen, as well. Fucking distraction from the Epstein files. Again, it's definitely being used it helps as a distraction, but whether or not that's like the end goal of this being undertaken, I'm not so sure. I think there's definitely some bigger aspects at play right now. This is being used as, and again, there's a difference between something that's undertaken as and being used as, right? So let's be careful with the way we do that. I appreciate you, Colleen, very, very much. But again, it's being used as that. But I do think there's there's a lot of bad actors behind the scenes with a lot of nefarious goals in mind also. So appreciate you. Thank you so much for that. Thank you, Mark. Again, dude, Boston Brian, share your links on Blue Sky too. Share your links. Oh, on the, are you talking about the links I was putting in the chat? I'll do that. I'll throw those on there for you. I appreciate you, buddy. Appreciate you, man. Thank you, Belfast Bob. Let's go. Slava Ukraine. Heroyam Slava. I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for your contributions. I saw you in there. I know you're a fan of James O'Brien, so I'm glad I could scratch that itch for you today. Thank you so much for your contributions. We appreciate you watching. Thank you so much. And again, Heroyam Slava. Right back at you, buddy. JD, that goes for you as well. Congratulations on being here for 21 months. Can't thank you enough. Really do appreciate everything you've done for the channel. It's going to be increasingly more necessary for you guys to support this channel. really do thank you and how much you guys have helped. I really do. So thank you, JD. Thank you, everybody. JD, once again here with the $5 super sticker. Can't thank you enough. I really can't. So it means a lot. It's going to mean a lot. It's going to be even more important coming up here. Again, as more information comes out, I'll be sure to fill you guys in. But again, just be ready to contribute if you're in the financial position to do so. That's all I got to say. I really do appreciate you guys. I'll let you go. I know I'm over and I apologize, but go on to, again, contribute to other independent creators. I will see you guys tomorrow for the doubleheader. We'll see you tomorrow, early show, 1 o'clock, and then we got the late show at 8:30, so don't miss it. I appreciate you guys, and I will see you there. Thank you again for another great episode of Blunt Politics. I'm Boston Brian. Thank you to the chat. Thank you to the mods. You guys are fantastic. I really do appreciate you. Thank you for everything. Let me see if I can bring you back in here for a sec. There you are. Thank you, guys. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for everything. Thank you, Vinny. Thank you, Mark. Thank you for all the mods. I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, everybody. Good to see you, man. Thank you, guys. Thank you, WW. Thank you, Mark, again. Chris, Brenda, all of you guys. I'll see you tomorrow, all right? Be good. Be good. Let me see if I can get out of here without looking like an idiot. Appreciate you guys. Thank you, guys. I'll see you later. Appreciate you.
Somebody said, is that a Trump statement or is that real? It's a new form of vicious violation to our country.
The kidney has a very special place in the heart. It's an incredible thing.
Nothing bad can happen. It can only good happen. For minors, do we love minors? I love minors. They're just getting acclimated. You know what that means, acclimated? Yesterday's a hard word for me. The rest of my life I have the curse that I have little hands. Little hands.
Here you got a little chubby going there.
Hence the name. Movement, it moves a certain distance, then it stops, you see. The revolution gets its name by always coming back around in your face. You tried to kill me, you son of a bitch. So welcome to the revolution.
They call them dumps, big massive dumps.
No words, I have the best words. But there's no better word than stupid. What uranium is, right? This thing called nuclear weapons and other things, like lots of things are done with uranium, including some bad things. Army, man the air.
It ran the ramparts. It took over the airports. It did everything it had to do.
I can just tell you that a con artist is about to take over the Republican Party and the conservative movement, and we have to put a stop to it.
I'm standing up here bashing the living shit out of Nazis.
Gettysburg, what an unbelievable battle that was. The Battle of Gettysburg, what an unbelievable. I mean, it was so much and so interesting and so vicious and horrible and so beautiful in so many different ways. It represented such a big portion of the success of this country. Gettysburg, wow. I go to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania to look and to watch.
Thanks, Dad. Love you. See you guys later.